Walking in Another World, Chapter 278, Treatment. How did it go? Asks Fred with a worried expression as I walk down from the second floor. Now that I get a better look at the dining room, I see everyone from their new party is here. She's sleeping. I'll hear more about it when she wakes up. Apparently she's just been sleeping lately. I see. What about the cure? I finished it, but we'll have to see if it works. You're right. We won't know anything until it's actually tested. So, why are you all here? I think I can imagine, but I still think it's better if he explains it. Well, Fred peeks over at Siphon, and starts explaining. They got to Preeks like they hoped, but found that they couldn't enter the dungeon. They don't know exactly why, but they were told that people affiliated with the dungeon and Preeks were carrying out an investigation. Apparently the whole town was wrapped in a heavy mood. They asked when the dungeon would be open to the public again, and were told they didn't know. So they returned to Majolica and accepted an escorting quest in the guild. And of course, that quest was to escort Layla and her party to the Dragon Kingdom. There aren't a lot of adventurers in Majolica with experience in escorting quests to begin with. But this is actually Fred's first. He probably accepted it because Siphon and the others are with him. Didn't they have knights to escort them? Layla's father is a feudal lord, so you'd think he'd be able to arrange that. But it sounds like they didn't have any knights they could just freely send out to escort them. Apparently the capital is enlisting everyone but the minimum amount of personnel they need. Does that mean? No, I'm getting off track. I'm surprised you made it all the way here, considering Casey's condition. It must have been tough. We couldn't walk, so we had to travel by wagon. We went the long way around via the Holy Kingdom. So they went to the Holy City and then south? But nobles' wagons sure are fast. And Siphon said it'd be more uncomfortable with regular wagons. There's no way a regular wagon can go that fast and not shake. That's true. They wouldn't have made it here so fast on regular wagons, and a cheap wagon that could go fast would shake horribly. Still, current technology in this world can't make a wagon that doesn't shake at all. It was Buzzin, right, who gave us an item to absorb the vibrations. That's part of the reason why we could bring her along. So they received my report, but couldn't find cockatrice materials in Preeks. And then Layla and the others came here out of desperation hoping to work something out. It was pretty bad watching her get worse every day. We'll leave the rest to you. I feel like he means not just Casey, but the rest of her party too. Then we check to see if there's a room available for us, and exchange information. I talked to Fred and the others, and the girls talked to Siphon and the others. But why are they complaining at me about the food on the road not being good? Master, can you come upstairs? When it's getting to be time for dinner, Yor comes down the stairs. I follow her, and see Casey is awake. It's been a while. Yes, Sora. How are you doing? Did you have trouble with the long trip? It's fine. Actually, I follow Casey's eyes, and they lead me to Layla, who is still lying on the bed. It looks like Casey feels guilty. She's only said a few words, but I can tell she's struggling. Anyway, I have a cure. I don't know for sure that it will work, but can you drink it? I hand Casey a small bottle, and she gulps it down without hesitating. I observe her attentively with appraisal, and suddenly, her status changes. That has an immediate effect on her body too. Casey notices it, and rolls up her sleeve. It's not gray anymore. It's back to her regular skin color. How are you feeling? Well, is all she says before having a coughing fit. Oh, number. Water. No. I take out a full potion from the item box and give it to her. I think it'd be better if she recovered slowly and naturally, but she's probably feeling weak in more ways than one, so I'll let her have just one. They don't work on someone who's ill, but if nothing else, it should give her some of her strength back. I think it's kind of working. When potions work, they show their effect dramatically. Even with wounds, they close very quickly like they're regenerating. If it's a high-quality potion, of course. Ask the owner for something easy to digest. For Casey, and Layla too. She hears me, and rushes out of the room. Let's calm down. Yor is from an important family too, but she could stand to slow down a little. Maybe that's just how worried she was. Thank you so much, Sora, says Casey while bowing deeply. Well, I just prepared the medicine. You should thank the others who looked after you. I'll leave her with the rest of Bloody Rose now. I'm kind of embarrassed too, but it's mostly because I don't really feel right here, surrounded by those tearful and happy faces. I'm not really good with this sort of thing, and I can't get used to it either. Walking in Another World, Chapter 279, Identification, Part 1. Thank you Sora. You really saved Casey, Layla says the next morning, as soon as she sees me. Last night Bloody Rose erred on the side of caution and ate in their room, so this is our first time seeing each other since I finished treating Casey. I say treating, but all I really did was give her some medicine, so it doesn't really feel like I did much. Maybe that also has to do with the fact that I wasn't with Casey when she was really struggling. You should take it easy too, not just Casey. I almost didn't recognize you. I understand. Good then. I don't really know what to do now. By the way, what are your plans going forward? I guess Layla's feeling the same way, as she asks me what I'm going to do from now on. Probably to change the subject. We talked a little about that last night. We were planning to go back to Majolica to deliver the medicine, but we don't have to anymore. For now at least, we're planning to go to the Republic of Eldo. And then we're planning to go to the Dark Forest, but I don't need to tell her that. The Republic of Eldo? Yes. We haven't found Eris yet, but we want to take Sarah home for a while. It would be different if we had to go to Majolica to deliver the cure, but it's pretty close if we go there from here. I see. But we're going to stay here a little longer. I want to see how Casey is doing. I think she'll be fine, but I want to stay here for about a week, just in case something happens. The real problem is what we're going to do for a whole week. Rurika and the others were talking about accepting quests, but I can't go away for a long period of time. I guess I'll just work on increasing the proficiency of my skills. I could also prepare for our journey, buying fish and stuff like that. What about buying food from stalls I've has my eye on? What about you? What are you going to do? We will be going back to Majolica when Casey's condition has improved. Oh, and there is something I want you to have, she says while giving me 3 cards. What are these? Identification. They do look like guild cards, but identification for you, Mia, and Hikari. You probably don't need it, but my father figured he might as well make it. This is definitely something I wanted, but are you sure? I do remember talking about this with Will, but after all I've been given identification too? Casey is like family to us. I guess it's fine if I think of it as a reward for Casey's treatment. All right. Thank you. I really did want this. I think that eventually, when all of my problems have been solved, I'm going to need it. But that makes me stop and think. What are my problems exactly? Looking for Eris, definitely. But after that, I don't intend to go after the Demon King. But if he continues to exist in this world, what happens to it? I've read a little about it in the Academy's library, but I'm not even sure if those were history books or fiction, and it felt like they always ended with a hero defeating the Demon King. Is the same thing going to happen this time? It's kind of hard to imagine, considering how overwhelmingly strong Ignis was. But I'm stronger than I was back then too. I wonder how strong the others who are summoned with me are at this point, and regardless of how strong an individual is, attacking as a group is different. Skills and magic can easily make up for a difference in numbers, but they also cost a lot. Then what if the Demon King isn't defeated? What happens to this world? I might need to learn more about that. I could ask Ignis if I ever met him again, but I'm honestly kind of scared of that thought. I go back to our room, and see that everyone except Hikari and Mia are out. I sit down on the bed I'm using, and Hikari walks over and sits next to me. Where are the others? They said they were going to the guild to look for quests. We're only leaving in a week. I don't really want them to accept quests too far away, especially after what happened with the bandits. But it's not like we have to always be together. Not to mention that those 3 have way more experience than me. I was just talking to Layla. Apparently she's feeling a lot better. In just one day? Casey's condition was influencing her a lot too. And I got this from her. I show them the 3 cards, and they look at them with confusion. I guess showing them isn't enough. They're credentials that show we live in Majolica. Identification. Oh? They're not really reacting. Hikari is just dangling her feet like she doesn't care. Sora, I know you were thinking of us when you got them, but I'm fine like this. But don't people look at you weird? I'm the one who made you a slave in the first place, but still. And without this, she says while touching her collar and looking down. In the end, I spend the day using skills and talking about cooking, until the other 3 come back. Walking in Another World, Chapter 280, Identification, Part 2. That's not right, says Rurika. Rurika and Chris are relaxing in our room after taking a bath, so I told them about what happened earlier. I feel like I can kind of understand how Mia feels, Chris says with a kind of troubled look on her face. I don't know if that is really how Mia feels, but I imagine she is feeling worried. Worried? Yes. It's not like we could bring Elsa and Alto along, but I imagine that she is feeling kind of like them. I know you have Mia's best interests in mind, but I think she wants to continue to go along with you. I figured she simply felt like she owed me for saving her, but she probably likes me to some extent too. Anyway, some things you just have to put into words, so have a good talk with Mia. All right. I will. Yes, I think that is for the best. So what kind of quest did you accept? I ask, changing the subject. Oh, we accepted a picking quest, and we're going to be camping. Ruruka says that they met Siphon and the others in the Adventurer Guild too, and they talked about accepting a quest together. But since there were no hunting quests, they settled on a quest to pick medicinal herbs. Are you all going? I ask, and she nods. Their group has 15 people, right? With Ruruka, Sarah, and Chris that makes 18. Isn't that a lot? Fred and the others only really explore dungeons, so they've never done something like a picking quest. We figured we'd teach them as we go along. It's really more about training than about the reward. I guess that makes sense. And they can experience walking around a forest and stuff like that. We won't be going too far, so it will be fine. Oh, and they also asked us to teach them some simple cooking, and we told them we can't cook as well as you, but they said that's fine. Apparently they've been thinking about cooking while on the move. They were traveling by wagon, so apparently they do have cooking utensils, but were mostly making do with preserved foods. Hearing about how their hearts were crying out for some, at least somewhat tasty, soup makes me nod without even thinking. I don't think Yana really cooks. We accepted an escorting quest together once, but I don't remember her ever cooking. Mia, we really should go to the Slava and have that contract rescinded. I say, and a cloud hangs over Mia's face. I really do want to rescind those contracts. I don't want people to look at you and Hikari like that. You say you can handle it, but I can't. But it's not like we have to part ways just because that contract's been rescinded. We can continue traveling together if you want. But of course, you have to keep in mind that we're going to the Dark Forest. I'm not too familiar with what it's like there, but from what I hear, it's a dangerous place. I look at Mia, and she looks at me right back. The serious look on her face makes me nervous. I feel my mouth getting dry. I clear my throat, and continue. But if you still want to come along, you can. There's no denying that I was the one who destroyed your life. If I had told Dan right away that she was safe, I'm sure she would have a different future waiting for her. They would have been more wary of demons, and she wouldn't have to put herself in danger in the dungeon. I don't want her to die. I want to save her. That much hasn't changed, and at the time, I thought what I was doing was right. And more importantly, I wanted to protect her from those unreasonable people. That isn't true. There is no doubt that you were the one who saved my life at that time. The Cardinal helped too, but this is just what I want. Mia stops and takes a deep breath. So Sora, I just don't want to leave you. Well, I probably, like you. I can feel my face turning red, and Mia's is turning red too. I'm honestly happy to hear that. But right now, yes, I know what's important to you right now. So I can wait for a response until after this is over. Also, unlike your original world, you can be with more than one person here. Mia lets out a quiet sound and falls flat. It's like she literally ran out of energy. Master, are you done talking? Asks Hikari, and Mia instantly revives. Hikari? How long have you been here? From the start. Yes, she was. Anyway, should we go to the Slava? Mia nods. So we're going out too. Walking in Another World, Chapter 281, Slave Liberation and Confusion. Well then, we will begin the process of emancipation based on the contract. I trust there isn't a problem. I nod. Mia is a debt slave, and I think her contract has pretty harsh conditions. The Slava is surprised at first, but I'm the master stipulated in the contract and I say it's fine. And considering she has new identification, provided by a noble no less, even if said noble is from a different country, he has no trouble starting the procedure. Are you alright? Yes. Mia sounds less happy and more like she's reluctant. Let's handle the formalities with you two, Hikari. It's not just Mia. Hikari has brand new identification too. That means she doesn't need the special slave contract anymore. It was only formed in the first place for convenience sake so she was able to enter and exit towns, and since her age meant she couldn't register in a guild, but the moment I say that no, she refuses. I'm not the only one who's surprised. Mia is too, especially since Hikari rarely raises her voice. Liberating you doesn't mean the relationship we have now will fall apart or anything. Still no. I try to convince her, but she shakes her head. And then, she hugs me and doesn't budge. Do you hate the idea that much? I ask with a soft tone, and she nods while still holding on to me. I kind of feel like she's trembling too. I start patting her head, and that slowly settles down. All right, if you don't want to, we won't do it. Mia looks like she has mixed feelings about that, but there's really nothing I can do. She might think I'm too soft, but that's just how impactful Hikari's reaction is to me. And so, I pay the slave the fee for one person, and we leave. Hikari is still holding on to me tightly, so we go to the park to wait until she calms down. As I chat with Mia, Hikari falls asleep before I know it, so we head back to the inn. What? I put Hikari down on the bed, and ask Mia. Nothing, I was just thinking that you're too soft on Hikari. I can't help but smile awkwardly when I see Mia puff her cheeks. In a way, I don't think I've seen her like that since around the time we met. What's so funny? Nothing, I was just thinking that you've changed. In a good way. I don't know if it's because we've liberated her from the slave contract, or because she got some things off her chest, but in the end, it doesn't really matter because it's a positive change. Let's just stay here for today. I'm scared of leaving Hikari alone too. Also, if I'm going to buy food in the stalls for when we're on the road, I need Hikari's opinion. That means that suddenly, we're left with nothing to do. But after hearing that from Mia, I feel kind of awkward facing her, even if Hikari is here too. Or more like I don't know what to say, even though this was never the case before. And apparently Mia is feeling the same way, because she looks flustered. This is no good. If we keep quiet like this, the atmosphere's going to get weird. A topic. What should I talk about? We wouldn't be having this problem if it was just about adventuring. But then, a quiet growl echoes through the room. Mia. I look at her, and she shakes her head with her cheeks red. And so, we turn our eyes to the only other person in the room, and we see Hikari get up while rubbing her eyes and yawning. Master, I'm hungry, she says, and that weird tension disperses. The same goes for Mia, who starts laughing. I see. Do you want to eat here, or go check out the stalls? The stalls. After all, there were no stalls in Altair. We leave the room, and bump into Talia, Lilui, and your master. Are you going out? Yes, we're going to get something to eat outside. Can we tag along? We haven't been outside much since we got here. I look at Mia, and she says that's no problem. What about the other three? They should rest some more. We were worried about leaving Casey and our big sister alone, so Trisha is staying too. I guess that makes sense. They shouldn't overdo it. Casey in particular was bedridden for a long time, so she might be having trouble getting back to normal. Hikari takes the lead and starts hopping from one stall to the next. Talia and the others are taken aback at how she goes around looking for things she's interested in and buying them. But what we don't eat now, I put in the item box so we can eat on the road. Mia laughs when the three of them get surprised when they see the grilled fish, and Lilui goes What is it, Lilui? Asks Talia, and Lilui points at Mia and freezes. You shouldn't point at people. But then Yor and Talia let out surprised voices too, when they look at Mia. What? The collar is gone, says Lilui, and the other two nod. Mia hears that, and realizes why they're surprised. Layla got me identification, and then she sounds a little embarrassed. Is it because she's remembering what she said to me? But what about Hikari? Everyone's eyes turn to Hikari, who is happily stuffing her face with food. I was planning to rescind her contract too, but I gave up after some intense resistance. Everyone nods like they immediately understand. You really like Master, don't you, Hikari? Yor says the reason. But is that really it? I can't really think of anything else though. But is that really it? I feel like part of me can't help but deny it. Walking in Another World, Chapter 282, Healing and Goodbye. Thank you so much, Sora. Big sister, everyone, I caused a lot of trouble. Don't be like that, Casey. We're all friends here. And it's thanks to you that we're all here. Yes, Casey. We didn't do anything special, say Layla and Talia after Casey bows deeply. She's been doing this when I visit the room, now that her condition is stable, but I was rewarded for what I did, so it kind of itches. In fact, I actually feel like I received too much. Is it because that man's too much of a dotant father? You're looking better. but you should still take it easy. You need to let your body get used to it. Yes. She sits up and opens and closes her hands. I don't know too much about health, so I think it's best to leave the rest to someone who does. Are you going to continue traveling, Sora? Yes. Once the others come back, we're going to rest for a few days and then leave. It doesn't look like there are any problems with Casey. I see. Are you going back to Majolica? We are going to stop by Mesa in the Holy Kingdom. But then we are planning to go back. The holy city of Mesa? When I say that, Mia flinches. A lot happened there. Actually, the war. It seems people who can hunt are being called. We are still students, but we might be called as well. I received a letter from my father too. It's because we are learning magic. He said he was worried, and to come back if it was looking like we'd be called. That sounds like something Dan, yours father, might say. That was partially why we came here too, to escape, not in small part because we had to look after Casey. It pains me to abandon my duty as a noble, but Layla says her mother works in the royal palace, and she says that it's looking like in the near future, hunting parties will be formed to go to the Dark Forest. Apparently opinions are split between countries in regards to the Kingdom of Elysia's call, and there's some confusion about it. I hear the Kingdom of Elysia has been saying that all people need to stand together to defeat the Demon King. She seems exasperated as she says this, because a country touting human supremacy is also calling out to places like the Beast Kingdom of Lath and the Republic of Eldo. They wouldn't normally do that, but they're calling for their help because it's convenient for them. The problem is that since it's about the Demon King that threatens everyone, they can't overtly oppose it. There are records that a long time ago, there was a country that refused a similar proposal, and was made to pay reparations after the Demon King was defeated. I guess they wouldn't suffer damage unless they bordered the Dark Forest. Wouldn't the countries attacked by demons be the only ones to mobilize? I think a lot of priests in the Holy Kingdom will join. People who can heal are important, and they need medicine too. I think their value is going to go up a little. Sayo and Lului. Medicine soaring in price. Being self-sufficient is great at times like these. Then we all leave to the dining hall and have lunch. It takes a bit of time because Casey can't walk on her own, so Layla and her party help her along. Still, she's slowly working her way towards being able to move on her own. She can't overexert herself. She's still not great, so she needs to get used to it slowly. It's a road we all might have to go down one day. Best of luck. Well then Layla, see you next time. Yes, I will be waiting in Majolica. I won't ask where you are going, but Hikari, look after Sora. Yes, leave it to me. Apparently Ruruka, Sarah, and Chris got closer to the others while on their picking quest too, and they're saying goodbye to Fred, Siphon and the others in their party. Now that I think about it, the first thing Ruruka said when they got back was, teaching people how to cook is hard, and Hikari, a lot. Maybe it's my imagination, but it feels to me like Fred and the other guys from that party lost a bit of weight. Thanks for the potions Sora, says Fred after they're done saying goodbye. They gave me the herbs they had left after they delivered what they needed to complete the quest, and asked me to make potions. And I had free time anyway, so I did. They paid me too, so it's not like I worked for free either. I told them that wasn't necessary, but they said it was work, and made me take it. Look after Layla and her party, Fred. You're going to be escorting them on the way back too, right? Of course. And this time we're staying in the Holy City for a bit, so I'm kind of looking forward to that too. Gown and Adele nod too. They're a dungeon party that's never left Majolica, so adventuring outside must feel fresh for them. But it's dangerous too. Siphon and the others have plenty of experience, so listen to them. And so, we leave for the mountain city of Lactuous, to make our way to the Republic of Eldo. Index. Walking in Another World, Chapter 283, Mountain City Lactuous. The road to Lactuous isn't well maintained enough for wagons to pass through, but we still managed to make our way up without much issue. It's not even like we're putting our experience climbing up a mountain last time to use. It really is just easy to walk. The road from Marty is much simpler than the one on the other side. The real challenge will be the mountain path from Lactuous to the Republic of Eldo. That means it's actually going to be harder to go down. Unlike Lacta, this place looks like a fort, but it actually was built as a fort to begin with. It was a long time ago. The name is a remnant from before the Republic of Eldo existed, and there was intense fighting between different races. They weren't directly involved, but they have a history of being dragged along in the aftermath. Those battles ended a long time ago, but they can't renovate the place because of its location, and because even as the ages went by, the feeling remains that war might break out again. It makes sense. As ages pass, people change. One despot could wreak havoc on the country, and when the time comes, it will bring with it fierce fighting. After seeing this, I can't help but look back at how calm Lacta was. That also has to do with the harsh mountain path. Is the mountain path easier here? From what I've heard, number. In any case, we need to be careful. There are a lot of beast people in Lactuous, and I see a lot of young people try to call attention to themselves when they see Sarah. The owner of the inn tells us that's a courtship pose specific to beast people. Speaking of the owner of the inn, she doesn't get many customers, so apparently her main job is something else, and the inn itself isn't really an inn. All they have to sleep are fur sheets that we lay on the floor. Why are they doing that? Partially because there aren't a lot of young women, and because they can feel the health and strength, I guess. There's no lie there, she really is strong. None of the young people in the village can stand up to her. Sarah's popular, says Rurika in jest. But Sarah shakes her head with her usual stoic face. I guess they don't measure up, but it is rare. I'm not as cute as Chris or Mia or anything. The two girls she mentions don't move, and stare at a part of the room. And me? I do my best to avert my eyes, fight the magic energy drawing me in, and try to keep my head from moving. Big sister Sarah, put on some clothes. Well said Hikari, even though Mia warns you about that all the time too. Sarah and Hikari both tend to walk around lightly dressed, although in Hikari's case, it's when she just took a bath. When she was a slave, I could warn Sarah by giving her orders, but now that she's been freed, it's like this sometimes. It's particularly bad with Sarah, because my eyes start wandering. With Hikari, not so much. She's basically a little sister. This is probably a side effect of Sarah having lived as a combat slave, especially after having lived in the harsh environment that is the Dark Forest. As a guy, well, I'm glad, but those eyes. There's so much bloodlust flying towards me. It makes me think they're actually going to kill me with their eyes. So, about the Republic of Eldo. What kind of route are we taking? Well, there's only really one path. First we go through the border city of Belka, then Fyro and the capital city of Fliman, and I think the town of Nell should be our first stop. Now, we talked about this, Sarah. The town where we lived before the war is gone, so they built a new town, explains Rurika, and Sarah tilts her head. Then Chris steps in and tries to explain it in a way we'll understand. According to her, Nell was built for people affected by the war with the Empire, so most of them moved there. It was actually a collection of villages, but after the war they realized that was dangerous, and built one town. This idea of making many villages is a remnant from before the Republic was formed, back when they were divided into settlements that fought against each other. Still, there are fewer villages and towns compared to before. When the Empire attacked, not all could be protected. That had to do with the fact that not many people from that time of war are still alive today. The so-called time of peace was too long, whispers Rurika, sounding sad. Chris and Sarah look sorrowful too. If it's just stories and memories, the terror from that time withers away. The same goes for us. We see terrifying things broadcasted through recording mediums, but it feels like someone else's problem from somewhere else. Fear, sorrow, anger. Even if we feel all sorts of emotions, that's all that is. So we should just focus on going forward. Other than checking the Slavas, yes, no problem then. And if we can rest in a town, we might as well spend the night there too. Yes, it's important to check the stalls. I see, there is that too. I look at Hikari, and she's nodding with a proud look on her face, so I pat her head. I feel 3 pairs of eyes looking at me kind of warmly. But I'm probably imagining it. Walking in Another World, Chapter 284, Border City Belka. We go down the mountain without anyone starting to feel bad, and reach the border city Belka 3 days after leaving Lactuous. But what comes as a surprise, is how long it takes to enter Belka. It's not a problem for Urika and Chris, but foreigners are subjected to a strict checking procedure. What about Sarah? She was born in the Republic of Eldo, but was taken away during the war, so she can't prove it, and she's treated the same as the rest of us. I think this is because of lingering trauma from being attacked. It might have been even rougher if Rurika and Chris weren't with us. Apparently they put in a good word for us with the guards. This will make it harder to go from town to town. And does this mean he can't walk freely inside them either? I don't think so, but it'll be harder to get in. Actually, I think it takes less time to get in here because not a lot of people come here. But we might have to wait for longer in other towns. Ah, because not a lot of people come in from the Rufflet side? I ask, and Rurika and Chris nod. It's true, there was no line. But could it be that it was actually harsh because no one was here? I ask that, but they say it's the same everywhere. But we're going to Faro next, right? Won't it be more lax because they already checked us in Bilka? Sora, it doesn't work that way. People don't necessarily visit every town in order like that, says Rurika, and it reminds me of when I left Elazia and crossed through the forest to get to the Holy Kingdom. The main issue will be how many people are traveling. It doesn't take people long to get in and out if they're based there. Is traffic going to become more intense as talks about defeating the Demon King spread? Anyway, let's try to not cause any trouble, says Rurika, and everyone nods. Why is she looking at me and Hikari like she's worried? In the end we stay the night in an inn, and although I'd like to keep going, we stay here for another day. It's mostly to gather information, which the group of Sarah, Rurika, and Chris do. So Sora, what should we do? I was thinking about checking out the stalls, and stopping by the Merchant Guild. But first, should we stop by an item shop to check out the prices of potions? And the Merchant Guild? Maybe I don't really need to go there, but I might learn something useful. First we go to the item shop, but the potions I see aren't very good. At first I figure they've all been bought up by someone else, but apparently not a lot of people use them, and there isn't much demand for high-quality ones. Then we stop by the Merchant Guild, which doesn't seem very active. I'd even call it desolate. I'm told that not a lot of people travel to the Dragon Kingdom, and not a lot of new merchants come here, so the guild is pretty small. And then he grumbles that Saro, the border city connecting to the Holy Kingdom, is more active. Apparently this person was sent here from Saro. Is that like a demotion? I don't actually say that, but he doesn't do a very good job dealing with us. He keeps grumbling while explaining things. Then we're off to the stalls, but Hikari isn't too pleased. We only buy 2 or 3 things to try them out. Did you learn anything? I ask when we meet up with the others, and apparently the Republic of Eldo isn't really on board with the whole plan to defeat the Demon King. The primary reason is, of course, the wounds from the war. It's been 7 years, but they're angry with the Empire, which isn't even making good progress with releasing hostages. Won't that cause them trouble later down the line? I don't know how they feel about that. The Republic doesn't have a lot of proper soldiers to begin with, so it's more like they're paying adventurers to go. Apparently they saw something like that affixed in the Adventurer Guild. It pays a lot compared to other quests, but they've heard that less than half the expected number of people actually accepted. The guild isn't actively promoting it either, because if people stop taking down monsters around this area, that's going to lead to damage to the town. Someone also said that if they don't get a lot of people, they can blame it on the Empire's actions. What do you think, Sarah? Is the Dark Forest that dangerous? HN. It's hard to say. When I fought there, I was treated like a disposable pawn. I think it might be different with a proper fighting force. Sarah stops, and continues with a grave look on her face. But I didn't go too deep. And I've heard that no one that goes into the deeper parts comes back. Would the deeper parts of the Dark Forest be like the lower areas of a dungeon? We need to be well prepared. I don't think we'll get lost thanks to the magic item we were given, but we still don't know what monsters we'll find. Everyone should carry enough food and disposable items for themselves, just in case. I should get to work making magic bags for everyone. Walking in Another World, Chapter 285, Flamen. We pass through Fyro, and reach the capital of the Republic of Eldo, Flamen. It's been about 2 weeks since we passed through Bilka, meaning the border, and it really does take a long time to get in, apparently because we arrived just as adventurers are coming back from their hunts. It's late at night by the time we are allowed inside, and we only managed to get a room in an expensive inn. It's so big that we can all stay in the same room, but I think it's out of the price range of regular people. I should not get used to this. I hear Chris say, yes, they have specialized staff, and meals are brought to the rooms. Speaking of the food, apparently it's all made of prime ingredients. But there are so many ingredients I don't know that I can't tell if it's good or bad. It all tastes good, but part of it feels kind of peculiar. And the next day, when we go around the stalls, I find out why. As we walk around and taste things, sometimes there's a strange feeling when I chew, or things taste lighter than they look. Master, it's iffy. A stall owner hears Hikari whisper as she frowns, and explains politely with an awkward smile. Little lady, in this country, people's tastes vary a lot. A lot of stalls take that into account. So basically, since different races have different tastes, they try to adjust the flavoring and texture accordingly. What feels like tough meat to us, is normal for some beast people, who would feel like they were chewing on nothing otherwise. I think he's explaining it because he saw Hikari go from stall to stall. I like this, says Hikari while eating. That's because this man is human. But you sure eat a lot for a small girl. There's a different stomach for tasty food. I haven't heard that one before. He's happy to hear it too. But come on, don't give her a meat skewer too. I take it and put it in the item box. He makes a weird face, but Hikari tells him it will keep it warm for when she eats it later, and he doesn't complain. Then we go around some item shops, and we check our equipment and buy some reserves. But since we also ask to repair some of the stuff we have, that means we have to stay here for a bit. Should we look for another inn? Asks Ruruka, and everyone nods except me. Hikari looks particularly happy, because there are still stalls she hasn't visited. And so, we drop by the Adventurer Guild too, so we can look for a quest we can accept while our stuff is being repaired, and ask about a more reasonably priced inn. There are a few hunting quests, but Ruruka, Chris, and Sarah are currently rank B. The quests listed that match their rank would send us a little far away. As we're wondering what to do, a guild employee sees faces he doesn't recognize, and approaches us. Is there something you need? It's a receptionist who was talking to Ruruka and the others just now. We were thinking about accepting a hunting quest, but all the B-ranked ones that are left are kind of far. One about hunting orcs, and one about hunting a tempest wolf, a superior species of wolf. Either would take us 3 days to get to our destination, and it would take us even longer to actually go into the forest to look for our targets. The quests come with notes about where they were sighted, but who knows if they're still there. It would be different if they were attacking a village though. Yes, it might be tricky if you are eager to continue with your journey. But what about this one? Isn't this the sort of thing lower-ranked adventurers accept? A wolf hunting quest. We would have to spend the night there, but it sure doesn't look like the sort of quest B-ranked adventurers would accept. We don't have enough people, and if you take down these wolves, it would really help the people picking medicinal herbs. Medicinal herb picking is something pretty much anyone can do, regardless of rank. Not to mention that they're used to make potions, something regarded as the lifeline of adventurers and knights. That said, people gradually stop doing it as they go up in rank, and higher-ranking adventurers don't usually go out of their way to pick medicinal herbs. So basically, she's asking us to hunt the wolves for the sake of the beginners who can't hunt them. The goal being not to eliminate them all, but to hunt them enough that they won't get near the place where the medicinal herbs are. Maybe we will accept it. There's no problem if we pick medicinal herbs too, right? Why yes. We also could use more, so please pick them if you can. I have noticed from going around item shops that the prices of potions are going up. I assume the invasion of the Dark Forest is having an effect. Maybe we should be in more of a hurry than I thought. Ruruka accepts the quest, and we're introduced to a new inn. We spend the night there, and the next day, we're off to hunt wolves and pick medicinal herbs. And of course, Mia and I are left to pick the herbs while the others go out looking for the wolves. We're going to sell them not just to the Adventurer Guild, but to the Merchant Guild and Alchemist Guild too. And I'm keeping the rest. That said, I don't want to go all out picking in a place for beginners, and I make sure to hold back. Walking in Another World, Chapter 286. Glencore. After leaving Flimen, and on the way to Na, I make a few things while we rest. First, Glencore's, made with Monitor magic stones, to put them in golems and make them move with life-granting. The more I use them, the more they accumulate experience and learn. Kind of like a self-learning AI. But if they break, everything they learned goes to waste. The cores are covered and reinforced with mithril, because mithril is light. Another advantage is that I don't have to be the one infusing them with magic energy. This is something that came to be as the life-granting skill leveled up. However, the only people who can give the golems orders are the ones whose magic energy is registered, meaning me and the other 5 members of my party. I could register more users, but not at the current skill level. I have to continue leveling it up. I think these cores turned out to be a little too needlessly high performance, but that's because I combined 3 Minotaur magic stones to make each one. I could make more if I had more magic stones, but I don't have any more magic stones from higher ranking monsters. If I use low ranking magic stones, they still have some ability to learn, but as soon as I give them a somewhat complex order, they stop. They're also not efficient when it comes to fuel, and need a lot of magic energy to operate for a long time. "What are you going to make next?" asks Rorika as I work with Mia and Chris. "I have 2 high-performance cores now, so I'm thinking I want to make a golem shaped like a human, and one shaped like an animal." I ask Mia and Chris for advice, and we settle on working on monster bones using alchemy to create a skeletal structure. The cores are now on special dolls made by Mia so they can keep learning, but they won't be able to fight in those. When I tell her this, she says just take it easy and goes back to keeping watch. She's right, I can easily get engrossed in this sort of thing and end up feeling tired when we're supposed to rest. I think this is a good stopping point. Could it be that that's actually why Rorika came here in the first place? How about we end it here today and continue next time? When I say that, they look disappointed. I get it. When you're engrossed in something, you just want to keep going. But if we overdo it, we're going to feel it later. If all goes well, it should still take us about 8 days to reach Nil. Following the main road means it's relatively safe, but we still have to stray away from it to camp. The pavement wouldn't allow people traveling by wagon to go too far away, but in main roads with a lot of traffic, they have spaces specifically made to park wagons. The downside is that while that's convenient for them, it's also a place that's easy to attack. In these cases, people using wagons tend to call out to each other and hunker down so they can defend themselves even if there's an attack. If they know each other, of course. Apparently they drive away strangers because there's no guarantee that they won't do something bad. But sometimes they also accept them if they're in a large group. I guess not many people go on foot. Sora, face reality. It's not many, it's just us. Yes. Rorika's right. To be precise, it feels like no one's traveling by wagon either. We left Flamen 5 days ago, but we've only passed by 3 wagons, and only one has overtaken us from the other side. Although it's nice that there isn't anyone around, because it means I get to work on the golems when we rest. Also, while we take breaks, someone infuses the cores with magic energy to get them moving. Hikari sets up targets and has them attack them. The human-shaped one is given a thinly shaved piece of wood, while the animal one just tackles. The piece of wood breaks and the animal golem makes a peeing sound as it bounces back. But I'm sure that's because of the materials their bodies are made of. Still, Hikari has fun giving them orders and seeing them act them out. Sarah keeps peeking at it too. I think she also wants to infuse them with magic energy. But when she tried it before, they only moved a little before they stopped. She was probably looking forward to it too, because I still remember how dejected she looked. Is this going to be my next goal with them? Letting them work for longer with low magic energy? It would be best if I could make something that could refine magic energy to a certain extent, but such a thing doesn't exist yet. What about something similar to solar energy in that other world? Or, it feels like the more skills I get, the more I want to do. And even though I'm not doing something dangerous like exploring a dungeon, I feel like I'm even busier than I was back then. You look like you're having fun, Sora. Yes, he looks all lively, say Chris and Mia. I guess it is fun to have more things to do. And it's fulfilling to see them take shape with my own eyes. And when the golems are done, I can see them being useful for all sorts of things. Walking in Another World, Chapter 287, Now. Part 1. Stop right there, someone yells, even though we're still over 10 meters away from the gate. The gatekeepers are holding up their spears, and are on guard. Did something happen? Who knows? Chen. It wasn't like this when we were here. Chris and Rorika seem perplexed by the gatekeepers' reactions. I'm surprised too. I've visited a lot of towns at this point, but they've never been this direct before. Of course, it's far from the first time someone looked at me with caution. But it was never this bad. What is your business in Nil? Someone Rorika and Chris know lives here. Ah, and apparently they lived here for a while too. We're adventurers that used to live here, but we haven't visited in a while. All of you? Just me and her. The others we met while traveling. You can check here. Rorika approaches one of the gatekeepers and hands him her guild card. The gatekeeper fearfully walks forward and takes it, but the other one is still holding up his spear, and watching Ruruka's every move. He goes back to his position after checking the guild card, and seems flustered, as he suddenly bows. I'm done checking. Excuse me. Come. I need to check the others. Hey, lower your spear, they're all right. The sudden change in attitude leaves the other gatekeeper perplexed, and he's not the only one. Once they're done checking our identification, we enter the town. Now that I think about it, the gates are usually open, but this one was closed. And is that a guard station? There are a lot of people there. When we reach the Adventurer Guild, we learn why the gatekeepers were acting that way. Ruruka, Chris, and is that Sarah? A receptionist reacts with strong surprise when Ruruka, Chris, and Sarah reach the receptionist desk, here in the busy Adventurer Guild. Apparently she's known them since they were young. You can tell me more later, but what is your business with this guild? The receptionist feels people's eyes on her, and goes back into work mode. The three adventurers get some information and ask about inns, and after they come back to us, we leave the guild. Let's go find an inn first. Shouldn't you go home? It's not really home per se, more like a home for orphans. We can visit later, but let's go find an inn first. We might need to stop by a few, because there are a lot of outsiders. As we walk, they tell us what they learned in the guild, and why the gatekeepers were on alert. Apparently, some ruins were found near this town, which prompted the capital to send a team to investigate, and adventurers to come here in droves. That means the once small town suddenly found itself flooded with people, and in a state of confusion. There have been clashes between them and the people who already lived here, and overall safety deteriorated for a while too. Things are relatively calm now, but apparently new arrivals cause trouble from time to time, and the guards are busy maintaining the peace. Do people find stuff like ruins often? Sometimes. This time, it was because a landslide took with it part of the mountain. Apparently some people are making a base near the ruins, instead of going to help in the dark forest. I know they hold grudges because of the war, but still, is that really fine? I've heard that ruins hold magic items just like dungeons. That's probably what they are after. Chris' explanation makes sense, but if they're not sure, is it a good idea to ignore whatever may come and go investigate? We keep walking, and as we visit our sixth inn, we breathe a sigh of relief as we are finally told we can stay here. There are more people than they expected. Sarah sounds tired too. It's less that there are a lot of people, and more that there aren't many big inns, even though it feels like the town is bigger compared to when we were here. Ruruka says that back when they lived here, they were just starting to build the town, and it was more disorderly. From that point of view, it feels more like time is just moving on. Yes, say Ruruka and Chris, as they look out the window. We can ask Rosa, the girl we talked to in the guild, more about the ruins. How about we stop by the home? I want to tell them about Sarah too, and I want to see how everyone is doing. What are you three going to do in the meantime? We'd probably just get in the way if we went with them, and they probably have a lot to talk about. You can come too. You've done a lot for us, says Sarah. While I was thinking, it feels like something's off, and when I look at her, she seems nervous. Is she feeling anxious? I think so. Yes, we might as well tag along. We get to walk around town in the meantime too. And it might not be a bad idea to tell them about how Ruruka and the others helped me too. Walking in Another World, Chapter 288, Now, Part 2. Do you think this place has changed? I think the walls are nicer. And apparently there are flowers growing in the garden, say Ruruka and Chris after stopping in front of a building, sounding nostalgic. Has it been 4 years? You've got that right. We hear an answer to Ruruka's whisper coming from behind us, and after we turn around, we see a woman carrying a lot of stuff on her back. She looks to be about 30 years old. Is that you, Philo? Yes. You're here too, Chris. Welcome back. You've become so beautiful. She charges this way with her arms wide open, and hugs the two girls. Wait, Philo, that hurts. Yes, it hurts. Stop complaining. I was really worried. The intense hug continues for a while, until she notices us and looks a little embarrassed. Sorry. So, she stops, as her eyes meet Sarah's this time, and she starts looking at her up and down. Is that Sarah? She asks, shaking with surprise. It's been a while, Philo. Sarah looks very normal, but her tail is wagging all over the place. I see, so you managed to find Sarah. Want a hug? It's fine, that's embarrassing. More importantly, You haven't changed at all. You've grown in more ways than one. Her eyes are locked on Sarah's chest, and I feel like it'd be dangerous to say anything. And the other three? The boy is Sora, this is Mia, and this is Hikari. They've helped us a lot in our travels. I see. Well, there's nothing, but come in and relax. We go in, and see a lot of small kids. We've taken in more since you left. Of course, there have also been ones who left to lead their own lives. Apparently there have been more kids ending up here than people leaving. Among them are kids that know Ruruka and Chris, so they come up to talk to them. The rest of us are treated a bit more distant, because we're strangers here to visit. That is, except Mia, who the kids take to right away for some reason. Is this the power of a saint? Someone is signaling for Sarah to come closer. That leaves just me and Hikari, and some kids looking at us while sucking on their thumbs. I feel someone tugging at my sleeve, and when I turn to look, I see Hikari holding it, while facing the ground. Master, these kids are hungry. I get a better look at them, and all them do seem pretty thin, although at least they don't look that pale or anything. Should we check? I ask, and Hikari nods. As for who'd know, that would be the people working here. I look around the room, but don't see Philo. I have to use presence detection, and find her reaction somewhere else. We exit the room and head there, and see her rummaging for something. After I hit the wall near the door, Philo looks our way with a surprised look on her face, but quickly switches to a smile. What is it? Are you lost? Probably not. Yes, I just wanted to ask something. Is that food? I guess. A shadow hangs over her face for a second, which pretty much answers my question. For how many days? 5. I look at the pile of food again, and feel like it's too little, considering how many kids are here. Is it because you don't have money? Hikari asks bluntly. We receive funds, but the price of food has gone up, she says as she bites her lip in frustration. Philo, can I ask why? Asks Chris, who suddenly appeared without making a sound. Philo faces down, but after sighing, she looks up with a troubled smile, and answers. Have you heard about the ruins? Yes. That's what's causing everything. This was a town built where no one lived, and it started out self-sufficient. That would still be fine if it was just the townspeople, but I can see the frustration as I look at the side of her face. The governor of the town tried to do something about it, but the merchants who came here looking to strike it rich bought up all the food, and prices soared. I see. And the food being bought is sent to the base being built near the ruins. They've also been asking other towns to send food, but the cost of transporting it alone also makes it expensive. Usually they would ask nearby agricultural villages, but those were destroyed in the war. People farm in this town too, but stuff like vegetables don't grow too well, especially in this season when the weather is unstable. Sora, can't we do anything? I don't know anything about farming. If the problem is the soil being barren or something like that, maybe I can do something with alchemy. Can I see one of those farms? And, take this. One of the kids can take me there, so that's what we'll do. And when I start taking monster meat from the item box, one after the other, Philo looks at it with her mouth open. Chris says thanks, but it really is important for them to fill their stomachs. I turn to Hikari, and she hugs my arm. Is she telling me I did a good job? Philo finally snaps out of it too, and also thanks me. She then asks one of the kids that knows Chris to guide us to a farm. Walking in Another World, Chapter 289, Now, Part 3. We've reached a farm relatively close to the home. The kids in the home sort of work for the owners of this place. The elderly couple here have experience farming, and they've been teaching them all sorts of things so they can eventually stand on their own. I tell them I heard about what's going on from Philo, and ask them if I can have a look, and they show me around without a hint of displeasure on their faces. The old man is called Olin, and the old woman Nano. The soil here really isn't suited for farming, but it's pretty much all like this in this area. But they still decided to build a town here because it's close to the river, and not too far from other towns. We tried to fix it too, but nothing works, says Olin while dropping his shoulders. I guess they've already tried to tackle the problem. From what I see, I get the feeling that the vegetables grown here are smaller than the ones I saw in other villages. I try casting appraisal on one, and it tells me its quality is average. But is that because its nutrients aren't good, or because it doesn't taste very good? I feel like I'd offend them if I asked. I can't ask them to try it either, because they are low on food as it is. But as I think about this, they pick something from the ground and bring it to me. They tell me to have a taste, and so, I do. But it doesn't taste too bad. Can you tell anything, Sora? Not really. I can't really do anything without knowing the root cause. But when I look at the ground with appraisal still active, suddenly something pops up like a speech bubble. It says the soil is poor quality. Can I have some of this soil? Olin makes a weird face, but when I tell him I want to study it a bit, he says yes. Should I try to use this to change the quality of the soil? It could be a good idea to bring in good soil from somewhere else. But even with the item box, that's not two jobs for one person. I think the more realistic approach is to use alchemy or creation to make nutrients for the soil. But what? I mumble after we get back to the inn, and Mia responds. Even if I used alchemy to improve the soil, that would be temporary. The best solution would be something everyone can do. I can't be everywhere. Then what about something an average alchemist can make? That way, the Alchemist Guild could make it too. Chris is right. It kind of feels like a waste to reveal a technique to everyone, but there's no other way. Unlike the Merchant Guild, I have plenty or people I can talk to in the Alchemist Guild, so maybe I can negotiate a usage fee like a copyright. But if it can only be made with the creation skill, that's a whole different story. After eating, we each do our own thing until it's time to sleep. Ruruka, Sarah, and Chris are also worried about the food issue, and are discussing accepting a quest in the guild. Hikari and Mia are infusing the dolls with magic energy and doing something. What are you doing? I ask, because they look pretty serious. We're going to show them to the kids in the home. Yes, we're practicing, they say. So they're thinking about putting on a puppet show? I'm a bit concerned about letting other people see them, but I guess someone's bound to see them at some point. Maybe I should have an excuse ready, like that they're magic items or that we found in a dungeon or something along those lines. Anyway, I should get to work too. First, I divide the soil into several separate containers. I use appraisal again just to check, and it still says it's low-quality soil. I'll make fertilizer-related items on the alchemy list. I can't do anything that involves burning materials inside the inn. But can I use alchemy to make it so they have the same effects as if they were burned? I have plenty of wood, but not a lot of leaves. If I knew I'd be doing this, I would have picked up fallen leaves too. Normally they'd be useful to light fires, but I can burn trees directly with magic, so I don't need them. What about using medicinal herbs instead of leaves? I still have some low-quality ones. Actually, can I use potions on the soil? Yes, I think I can use this. This doesn't look like it'll work. This isn't too effective. It's hard. I feel like I haven't been this focused on work in a while. Master, are you done? I think I'm almost there. I really do want to get some leaves and try using them. And maybe magic stones? I still have magic stones, but they're relatively high quality, and I want to use ones from goblins or wolves. Ruruka, is there a forest with goblins or wolves or stuff like that nearby? There's a forest, but I don't know if there are monsters. Why? I want leaves and magic stones. Don't you have a lot of magic stones? I'm still experimenting, so I want to use ones from low-level monsters. And if what I'm making can be done with magic stones from goblins or wolves, that's also more convenient. If it can't be made with those kinds of magic stones, and it can only be made with magic stones from monsters like orcs, it will be too expensive. Then we'll go to the guild tomorrow. We want to do a little hunting too. They want to get some food too. They have a reason to want to hurry, but they still want to help an old acquaintance in trouble. Walking in Another World, Chapter 290, Now, Part 4. We head to the guild the next morning, and check the hunting quests. There are goblin and wolf hunting quests, so they accept both. Ruruka, Chris, and I will handle the goblins, and Sarah, Hikari, and Mia will go after the wolves. It's just like when we first met, and hunted goblins. Yes, that weak little Sora grew up so nicely. Fufu, that's true. He seemed so nervous back then. Our first goblin hunt feels like it was years ago, but it hasn't actually been long enough to feel nostalgic about it, has it? We're going with this composition because we can't have a group go out and hunt monsters without someone registered as an adventurer. How would we report who hunted them and get the credit? I'm in the group hunting goblins, partially because they're not really the sort of things girls take the initiative to go after, and because we need to burn the bodies. That's why Chris is here too. And since wolves have to be taken apart, I wouldn't fit that group. I'm pretty sure Mia is better than me at doing that at this point, and she's strong enough to not get outdone by wolves too. By the way, what were you three talking about last night? Mostly about the home, and about Grandma too. The one who made the spirit amulets. Yes, Grandma Morrigan. She passed away, right? She didn't. Probably. Really? We don't know where she is. When the town was built to a certain extent, she used to run off somewhere, come back, and repeat. Thinking back now, I think she was looking for people from the village that got separated from us. Yes, and she was really opposed to us becoming adventurers. And we insisted and troubled her. But we just had to go out looking for them, because Eris and Sarah never came back during that time. Ruruka says as she clenches her fists. But not long before we became old enough to register as adventurers, she went somewhere and didn't come back. She ended up not coming back before we left. And yesterday Philo told us that she didn't come back after we left either. Judging by what Chris and Ruruka say, Morrigan is probably out there looking for people from their village. Maybe alone, maybe with a group of people. But why didn't she come back? Did she get into some sort of trouble? I want to believe she's fine, but I can't help being worried either. She was getting up there in terms of age. Fufu. She would get mad if she heard you say that. Ruruka and Chris joke to try to lighten the mood, because it's getting a little dark. They are, aren't they? Well, Ruruka's face is getting pale, but Chris is laughing. Afterwards, we find a group of goblins, and take them down. I miss the innocence of those days. This again? Well, I know she's joking. Let's burn them. We gather all the goblin corpses, and Chris lights them up. I was going to do it, but she says it's fine. Now that I think about it, Chris didn't used to have a lot of stamina back when we met, but it's improved drastically. I think that has to do with exploring the dungeon, but traveling with Ruruka probably helped her grow too. Chen? What is it? Why are you staring at Chris like that? I was just thinking about how much better her stamina is compared to when we first met. My answer kind of takes Ruruka aback a little. Was she trying to tease me? Looking at her like this makes me feel like she's still kind of hard to figure out. Are you making fun of me? I'm not. Let's go have a look around this area. Good call. Let's change the subject. Although I'm using map and presence detection, and I don't think there are any monsters around here. Yes, I want to check the terrain around here a little more. How about we walk a little? I want to pick some leaves too. Does that sound good? I want to collect branches and leaves, because depending on the season, there might not be much to be found to use with the alchemy you were doing last night, asks Chris, and I nod. She sounds interested, so I explain it while we walk, and she listens to it more intently than I was expecting. Is the situation over in the home that serious, or is she just interested in this? I ask, and she says it's the latter. She also says that improving the soil might open up more possibilities for the future of the kids in the home. Yes, the soil around the town probably isn't suited for farming, but if they can use something to fix it, they might be able to start thinking about expanding the town. People either leave or have no choice but to become adventurers, because there's so little soil they can actually use. Of course, there are also talented people who end up joining the alchemist or chemist guilds, and the ones who can read and write and do calculations might be suited for the merchant guild, but it's not easy. I look at Chris' smiling face in profile, as I think about how she really is kind. Walking in Another World, Chapter 291. Soil medicine. I need to graciously accept that I simply have no naming sense. After coming back from the goblin hunt, I go back to the inn right away and get to work. Ruruka and Chris went over to the home to help, leaving me to silently work on my own. Master, we're back. I look up, and see Hikari jumping over here. She doesn't smell bad, but when I look a bit more closely, I notice she's a little dirty. They must have ran around the forest a lot. Also, no one in the wolf hunting group could use daily life magic. I didn't think about that at all. I cast purification magic on her, and then on Mia and Sarah. They look a bit embarrassed for some reason, and their cheeks are red. Did something happen? Where are Ruruka and Chris? They went over to the home to help. How did it go with you three? We hunted a lot. Too much for us to take them all apart, so we asked the guild. We have to go get them tomorrow. It really was a lot of trouble, says Mia, who was the dirtiest among them. Sarah laughs awkwardly, and Hikari tilts her head like she doesn't understand. I ask what happened, and they tell me Hikari went at it too hard, and Mia tried her hardest to keep up. Sarah wanted to rein them in, but she also wanted the kids in the home to have a lot to eat, so she couldn't really stop Hikari. You gotta eat well. Is that why Hikari worked so hard despite not being close to those kids? Because food is involved? I wish she paid more attention to what's going on around her, but her overall idea was commendable, so I pat her head and praise her. I don't care if they say I'm too soft. I feel Mia's eyes on me, and when I turn to look, she quickly looks away. After this, Sarah says she's going to the home too, leaving Mia and Hikari here. But just before she leaves, Mia says something to her. Done. I have 7 containers in front of me with dirt in them. 3 of them say the dirt is good quality when I cast appraisal on them. Did you do it? Asks Mia, in response to my whisper. I guess. But I still need to check how much would be necessary to cover a whole farm. It's not very simple, is it? Yes. And I need to check if the effect continues to work, or if it improves the quality temporarily. It's not like I know anything about farming either, so I'll have to talk to someone who does. I look outside the window, and see the sun is about to set. I guess I'll do it tomorrow. The next morning, Sarah and Rurika head to the Adventure Guild, while the rest of us head to the home that Philo manages. Hikari and Mia are going to play with the kids, and Hikari tells me to give her the dolls. Are they going to unveil what they were practicing? I should ask Mia to make sure Hikari doesn't get too crazy. Then Chris and I go see the elderly couple in their farm, along with kids that will be helping us. First, I explain things to Olin, and borrow a corner of the field. We don't really know what will happen, and at first they show resistance to the idea of maybe harvesting less, but once the kids tell them we gave them a lot of food, they relent and let us use part of the field. I have 3 kinds of soil medicine, so I separate the land into 3 blocks. The issue now is that I don't really know how much to use, so I'll use appraisal while putting the medicine on the soil. I stop once it shows the quality is good, but what would happen if I kept going? If giving it more influences it badly, that's pretty problematic. I can use appraisal, so that's fine, but in this world, there isn't really anything to measure quantities precisely. Even if there was, that would only work if they knew how much soil they were dealing with, like with a potted plant. The field in front of me isn't that neatly arranged. What is it? I improved the quality of the soil, but I tell Chris what I just realized. She seems troubled too, but she says she wants to have a better look at how it works, so I use a different medicine. Ah, she exclaims, just as appraisal shows the soil's quality is now good. What? The soil changed color a little, says Chris, so I look at it more closely, and it's true, it does look a little different compared to the soil that hasn't been touched by the medicine. Olin walks over here after hearing Chris, and he grabs a handful of the soil that just received the medicine and starts checking how it feels. Yes, completely different. Feels good. He's an expert, so I guess he can make that judgment by touch alone. He says the smell is different too. Is it? I get the change in color, but I don't feel any difference in the smell and touch. I use medicine on the last block too, but this time, I don't use appraisal, and instead stop when I see it change color. Then I check with appraisal, and the quality is good. This should be fine, says Chris, and I nod. Now the issue is whether or not vegetables will grow better. Olin is going to start sowing seeds right away, and since I'm here, I figure I might as well do it too, while he teaches me. Walking in Another World, Chapter 292, Now, Part 5. We aren't going to see results right away, so I ask Olin and Nono to keep observing. And since I don't know if we'll be here long enough for results to show, I talk to the Alchemist Guild. A medicine to increase the quality of soil? I guess hearing that all of a sudden is perplexing. I'm not familiar with how farming is in this world, but if there's an item that can improve it, I assume they will at least want to try it. Of course, there's a chance that they won't even want to touch it if the price is too high, but this town was built with the backing of the country. I think if an item like this exists, they should want to use it, and apparently I'm right in that medicine to improve quality of soil doesn't currently exist. Apparently farming is done on land suitable for it in the first place, and each village has their own traditional methods. In Japan there is fertilizer for kitchen gardens even, but here no one focuses on producing it. Even if they did make it, they need to be able to send it to where it was needed. A lot of villages are located far from towns, and generally speaking, most of them are self-sufficient, but some people also go and sell things depending on necessity. because it's always nice to have money, especially when they need to do stuff like put out quests to hunt monsters, so people wouldn't go out of their way to buy this. That is not true. In fact, there are people who want to expand the territory. I think we can use this. I'm surprised by the enthusiasm, considering the weak reaction at first. So we can sell this method? We won't actually know until we try, and we also need to check if it can really be done with alchemy. That's true. Does it really work? Can it really be done with alchemy? I have it with me, but this is just what I made. In any case, I will register Sora as the creator. We will keep it under observation and check if others can also make it. And if it works, there's a reward for coming up with a new kind of medicine, and a reward depending on how much it actually sells. As I hear various things being explained, suddenly I think of something. I didn't get such a detailed explanation when it was about the full potions, but I heard Buzzin go on about favorable conditions. Sorry, but can you check the balance on this card? They do, and there's more money on it than I thought. Did they perfect their full potions? I mumble, and the employee reacts. Full potions. Sora, are you the same Sora who developed the full potions? The employee asks, terribly excited. Probably. I see. Please wait, I will call the guild master. When the guild master arrives, I tell him everything, starting from the reason why I decided to create the soil medicine for the children in the home. The guild master is impressed, but it was largely for the sake of Chris and the others too, so it feels kind of wrong to be praised for it. Yes, this town's food problem is getting a little severe. We need to think about the future too, so if anyone is free, we will have them try it. I guess being a guild master means his head works pretty fast. Or I guess I should specify, guild master of the Alchemist Guild. I would like to see what happens. I assume he means the actual process of creating it, and how it changes the soil. Is there any place where we can test it? I ask, and I'm told there's a plot in the guild where they grow medicinal herbs. But the soil they use here is mixed with soil brought from the forest, so when I check its quality, it says it's normal. It's better than the soil in the farm, but maybe there's still room for improvement. I ask about it, and I'm told that the medicinal herbs they pick here don't really seem as healthy as the ones picked in forests, for example. But I'm told they're actually noticeably better than the ones picked in grassy fields around the town. Since I'm telling them the method anyway, all the alchemists currently not busy gather, and I explain to them how to make the soil medicine. Maybe it's just me, but I get the impression that all of them have bags under their eyes. The ones that are particularly bad have sunken cheeks too. Are the work conditions here terrible? I ask without even thinking, and they say that some people have been so obsessed with making full potions, that when they're done with their regular work, they immerse themselves in those. Many people here have the temperament you'd expect from a researcher, and when their desire to look into the unknown is stimulated, they end up foregoing sleep to keep working. They also say that these medicinal herbs were sort of planted in a hurry too, so they could use them to practice making full potions. No, people really do need to rest. I add a condition to me explaining how to make the soil medicine, and make them promise to sleep properly. Rest is important. Walking in Another World, Chapter 293, Part 6. My body is tired after the intense barrage of questions in the Alchemist Guild, but it gets better as I walk back to the home. As I get close to it, I hear the voices of the kids cheering. Chris and I both turn towards the other, and when we go in, we see the dolls I left with Hikari moving. I guess I can say, beautifully. Eventually they stop moving and fall, and I hear applause. I get a glimpse of a rare, proud-looking Hikari, but when she notices us, her expression goes back to normal. The kids start chanting more at her, but Philo stops them and gives them instructions, and some leave to do things like clean. Good grief, thank you Hikari, for entertaining the kids. No problem. You two are back. Rurika and Sarah just came back too, and started cooking right away. Apparently they're cooking with the kids that can cook. Oh, and do you have a moment, Chris? I remembered something. Philo leads the way into the room she's been using. Is this? Yes. The room that Morrigan used. I've been doing things like paperwork here. And she takes out a pendant hidden underneath her clothes, and uses a key in its tip to open a drawer. There's a small box inside, and inside the box, is a pendant with a beautiful ornament attached. Chris gulps when she sees it. Morrigan used to leave it with me when she went somewhere. She asked me to give it to you if something happened to her. Back when Chris and Rurika became adventurers and left this town, they still thought Morrigan would return, but it's been close to 4 years since then. And now that Chris and Rurika are back, she figured she should hand it to her now. I kind of forgot about it too. It all came back to me suddenly, she says, sounding apologetic. No, it's clear that you have been having a lot of trouble lately, but I don't think I should take it. I'm planning to leave again. I heard about that from Rurika and Sarah. It's about Eris, right? Take it anyway. Morrigan specifically told me to hand it to you, so there must be some meaning to it. Although, maybe it's not my place to say that, since I forgot all about it. Ha ha ha, Philo says as she puts the pendant on Chris. She whispers something in her ear too, and I can see Chris' face turn red. See you later, big sister Hikari. You too, big sister Mia, the kids say when it's time to leave. I get Hikari. But why Mia? Oh, I guess she's been sewing with some of the kids, like patching up clothes with holes. The number of people here is also an issue. But since even used clothes cost money, it's common practice in this world for people who can't afford them to use old clothes until they're falling apart. And even then, they tend to use the parts that are salvageable as patches, or maybe as house cloths. But since not a lot of people can do that, Mia's been helping. Do you need new cloth? I was thinking about buying them some used clothes. Mia says we shouldn't give them too much. Even if it's good for the present, it won't help them in the long run. This is a problem that the country or the town have to fix. Also, I heard that people who used to live here make contributions. Mia looks at Rurika and Chris, and Rurika looks away, seemingly embarrassed. I wish we could donate more, but, Philo said number. She said we might still need it, says Chris, and Rurika explains further. She says that since they're going to look for Eris, they need proper equipment to continue traveling. Not to mention that Philo is worried about the dangers they might face. In reality, more than 1 or 2 of the kids who became adventurers after leaving the home have lost their lives. And there's also the fact that no matter how much time passes, Philo still sees them as troublesome kids. Then what if I spend some money to buy just a little something? You did do a lot for me when I was just starting out. Used clothes. Maybe stuff like sheets would be better? I've heard them talking about sleeping cuddled together when it's cold. We can't let them get sick. I'm sure she would accept that. Mia agrees, so maybe we'll do that tomorrow. And by the way, maybe it's a good idea to start getting ready to move on. We have to stop our stay here at some point, or we'll end up staying forever, says Rurika. And despite looking reluctant, Chris and Sarah nod. I'm sure they wouldn't have to feel so troubled if they found Eris, but they still haven't accomplished their goal. But what about when they do? Are they going to live in this town? What about me? I feel like when one problem gets solved, another one is going to show itself. I think about that, but stop, and turn away from that reality for now. Walking in Another World, Chapter 294. Dream. Chris' point of view. After walking through 6 countries, we're back home. We managed to find Sarah, but I wish we could have come back after finding Eris. No, I should be happier that we managed to find Sarah at all. Now, our second hometown has changed a lot. There are more buildings and more people. However, having more people didn't necessarily come about through development of the town. People rushed here to investigate ruins that were found nearby, and with that came a problem: food. I knew even back then that this land wasn't suited for agriculture, but there are many such places in this country. The Republic of Eldo simply has a lot of land like that, which is something I came to realize after going to various towns. And because of that, when we went back to the home to tell them we found Sarah, we found many of the kids looked too thin. I even heard some stomachs growling while we played with them, and some were too weak from hunger to want to move around a lot. Sora shared wolf meat and vegetables, but that is only a temporary solution. Afterwards, he used alchemy to create a medicine to improve the quality of soil, and Hikari, Mia, and Sarah hunted wolves to get more food, but it's still not enough. Not to mention that other places might get upset about the favorable treatment Philo's home is receiving. I'm particularly scared about looting. I don't think anyone would do that, but I cannot say I'm absolutely certain either. During the war, we saw it happen many times with our own eyes. Still, we must do what we can. I still have concerns, but we have something we have to do. I wish we could stay and check on the results of Sora's soil medicine, but we can't afford to hang around here for long. Defeating the Demon King. We saw that quest when we stopped by the guild. We don't know when this is going to be executed, but preparations are steadily advancing. And before that, or maybe as it is happening, we are going to enter the Dark Forest. And just as I'm thinking about this, I receive a pendant from Philo. I remember seeing it a lot when I was younger, on Grandma Morrigan. I thought it was beautiful, and I remember that when I asked who gave it to her, she looked sad, and all she said was that she got it from someone she couldn't see anymore. Grandma, I whisper without thinking, and suddenly, I don't know where I am. I talked with the others about our plans for tomorrow, and I was lying on the bed, but now I'm in a place I don't recognize. I look around, but there's a mist of sorts that won't let me see very well. But strangely enough, I don't feel anxious. I do feel that someone is calling me, for some reason. Who? I suddenly feel something warm, and when I look down at my chest, I see the accessory in the tip of the pendant is shining. When I notice it, the light stretches and creates a line. I follow the line, but the mist is preventing me from seeing where it's going. Ruins? And yet, for some reason, I feel like I know what it's pointing to. I immediately realize they are the ruins discovered near Nil. Are you telling me to go there? There is no one to answer my whispers, but I somehow feel like I'm being told I'm right. Ruins? But how? From what I heard in the Adventurer Guild, some important people in the country have taken over investigations, and are barring non-authorized people from entering. There are also adventurers who accepted a quest, but I think I heard they are high-rank adventurers who accepted designated quests to accompany those people. I can't go. It would be a waste of time. And yet, the feeling that I have to go keeps growing stronger and stronger. It's like my feelings of thinking I can't do that are being purposefully negated. Tomorrow, when we wake up, should I talk to the others about this? As I think about this, my vision starts getting hazy, and I'm assaulted by this feeling, like my consciousness is sinking. Is this a dream? Reality? Eventually, I hear someone calling me, and wake up. Walking in Another World, Chapter 295, Now, Part 7. Chris, yells Rurika, and Chris opens her eyes slightly. Rurika breathes a sigh of relief, and Chris looks surprised, as she opens her eyes widely. I laugh without thinking when she makes that expression, but it's because I'm relieved. It looked like she was suffering. She would mumble words from time to time, and her breathing was erratic. And she wouldn't respond or wake up at all no matter how much Rurika and Sarah called out to her. Are you alright? What's wrong, Sarah? Chris looks at Sarah's worried face, sits up, and looks around. And then, she finally notices everyone looking at her. It looked like you were in pain or something. Were you having a nightmare? Nightmare? The ruins. Ruins? What about them? I feel like we have to go there. Chris doesn't really know why either. The ruins that were discovered near here? Yes, probably. As she answers my question, she grabs the pendant hanging from her neck, and looks at the wall. I'm pretty sure the ruins are in that direction. Let's just gather information tomorrow while we go shopping. Even if we go to the ruins, we have to buy things for the home and stock up on disposable items first. And how about learning a bit more about the ruins too? Yes, there's still some time until morning, so let's just rest. I think we're going to be busy, says Rurika, and Hikari is the first one to go back to bed, followed by everyone else. The next morning, Rurika and Sarah head to the Adventurer Guild, and the rest of us go shopping. We have a lot to do, so they'll join us again when we're done. That said, we look around for the disposable items we'll need while traveling, but everything is so expensive that we end up not buying them. If we went back to the capital and bought things there, we'd get items of better quality for a lower price. And after I check the item box, I see that I'd feel more reassured if I restocked. But there's still enough that I'm not really all that bothered. Should we go buy the sheets? I want to buy things like thread too, if possible. Do you want to sew again? Yes. Not for me exactly, for the children in the home. If we buy more sheets, maybe they can make clothes too. Apparently Philo has also been teaching some of the children how to sew. If that's what she thought while she sewed with them, it has to be right. Then let's buy extra sheets. What else? Suddenly, I remember something. Where are stuff like broken weapons disposed of? In blacksmiths, or maybe they're sold in weapon stores, I guess. That said, the ones in weapon stores wouldn't be broken. They'd be leftovers that can technically still be used. And stuff like iron ore would be in blacksmiths, right? I think so. Then should we head to a weapons store first? And as we check out the prices, we meet up with Rurika and Sarah. I see poor quality stuff gathered in a corner of the weapons store, all being sold for dirt cheap. I ask why there's so much, and I'm told people buy new things and leave the old stuff here. Once I start grabbing them, I see it really is all stuff that wouldn't even serve as spares. It's not like they're completely unusable, but I wouldn't buy them either, assuming I had the money to buy something better, of course. Anyway, I buy a few, and put them in the item box. What are you going to do with those? Asks Sarah as we leave the store, and I say I want to try working on them with alchemy. What I want from them is the iron. I want to see if I can use them to make farming tools. They're surprised to hear this, but when they realize who the tools are for, they look a little happy too. We figure we should stop by a blacksmith too, and on the way there, I ask Sarah and Rurika if they got any information, but it sounds like they didn't learn a whole lot. But I do get cheap iron ore in the blacksmith. I should talk with Olin before doing anything about the farming tools. Once we get back to the home, we split into two groups. I put sheets and tools to be used in the home in an item bag, and hand it to Mia. Then I go with Sarah to Olin's home, so I can see the sort of tools they actually use there. Are you really sure about this? Yes, I got all the materials for almost nothing anyway. Not to mention that he's a nice enough person to teach the kids in the home how to farm. This really isn't that much trouble, if it means helping someone like him. I separate and take just the iron I need with alchemy, and change what used to be swords into stuff like hoes and shovels. Once I'm done, I ask Olin to check them, and he says there doesn't seem to be a problem with them. This might really speed up our work. I made some that are smaller, so even kids can use them. But be careful with how they use them. Of course. But really, thanks for all this. We leave and expand our farm a little with this. Can you do that? It's not anyone's using it. I just got to check with the big shots here in town, but it shouldn't be a problem. This is far from the center of town, so I guess there's room to spare. We have things to do, so we're going to have to leave town, but I think people from the Alchemist Guild are going to come here to check the progress of the crops. Please receive them when they come. And that concludes our business in the, so we're leaving for the ruins the next day. Walking in Another World, Chapter 296, Golem Production, Part 1. It's the night of the day we left Null. We walked all day, but apparently no one else is heading to the ruins, because we didn't pass by a single person. I even checked the direction where we're heading using map, but I didn't see any reactions. I figure that in that case, I should continue working on the golems, slowly and steadily, so I can have them ready before I actually need them. Everyone rests after dinner, and I use that time how I want to. First, the cause. Then I ask for some advice about it, and get to work on the skeletal structures. I'm making them light and sturdy, but as much as I wish I could make them out of mithril, I just don't have it. Instead, I use the creation skill to make something as close to it as possible. Then there's the actual meat of the golems. I use dirt for that. And they're done. One humanoid golem, and one made to look like a wolf that walks on four legs. Not bad, if I may say so myself. Once I use life granting and tell them to move. They're slow, but do walk. I turn around, as if saying how's that? But for some reason, the reaction from the girls is pretty tepid. Master, it's iffy. It's just a trial run. I'm going to keep doing it and learning, and eventually they'll be faster. I stress to Hikari that this is just the start, but she still doesn't seem impressed. Yes, they're slow compared to the dolls Mia made. It's because of the magic energy they use, and the weight of the materials. So I just need to keep making them better. Sora, I don't think Hikari is talking about how they move, says Mia. What is it then? Yes, I'm not sure about those. Rurika is right. It's hard to believe they were made by the same person who made those accessories for us, says Chris. So I look at the golems again. I don't really see what the problem. Master, they're lame. Hikari delivers the coup de grace, and everyone nods with awkward smiles. They look kind of bad. You called them golems, right? I'd think they were monsters, or maybe very suspicious people. You better use them where people can't see them. Mia and Sarah's words worry me quite a bit. Of course, I made them to keep watch when he camp, so it's not really a problem if they look bad. But then Sarah and Rurika start discussing it, and point out things I can fix to make them move better, like places with too much dirt, and I do see how their shapes could influence that. But there's a problem. Afterwards I make another golem just to practice, and try to do it in that way, but fail. Well, maybe if I put more time into it I could. But according to Hikari, this is taking time away from cooking, so I look for skills. It's not like I care about them telling me they look lame or uncool. New, shaping LV1, absorption LV1. Shaping speeds up golem production, and apparently allows me to understand the shape and structure of human and animal bodies. That's probably what I lack right now. Absorption, as the name implies, lets me absorb magic energy. I got this to collect leftover magic energy in golem cores. I got this after trying to put one of the failed experiments in the item box and failing. Apparently they can't go in the item box if there's still magic energy in the cores. This skill might come in handy for that. But learning this skill also leads to a happy accident. For example, if I spend 5 MP to absorb magic energy, I get 1 MP back. It's so little because it's still level 1. But I imagine that as I level up the skill, it's going to go well beyond the amount of MP I spend. And what if I infused a sword or something with this skill? Could I make a weapon with a drain effect? I figure there might be more useful skills if I look for them, but there's no point in learning them if I don't use them, so I stop at 2. I don't even know if some of the skills I learned before are even usable. Name, Sora Fujimiya. Job, Sorcerer. Race, Otherworlder. No level. HP, 1070. MP, 1070. Plus 200. SP, 1070. Strength. 1060. Plus 0. Stamina. 1060. Plus 0. Agility. 1060. Plus 0. Magic power. 1060. Plus 200. Dexterity. 1060. Plus 0. Luck. 1060. Plus 0. Skill, walking LV 106. Effect, user won't get tired no matter how much they walk. Get 1 experience point with each step. Experience points, 220,309 800,000. Skill points, 42. Skills learned. Appraisal LV max. People appraisal LV max. Appraisal obstruction LV 7. Parallel thinking LV max. Sword master LV max. Physical strengthening LV max. Presence detection LV max. Magic energy detection LV max. Natural recovery boost LV max. Status ailment resistance LV 8. Pain reduction LV 6. Presence concealment LV max. Night vision LV max. Throw, shooting LV 9. Intimidate LV 6. MP consumption reduction LV 3. Magic energy control LV max. Basic daily life magic LV max. Fire magic LV max. Water magic LV 8. Wind magic LV 8. Earth magic LV max. Light magic LV 6. Dark magic LV 7. Spatial magic LV max. Holy magic LV 7. Alchemy LV max. Effect attachment LV max. Creation LV max. Transfer LV 7. Gravity magic LV 4. Space-time magic LV 4. Life granting LV 4. Replication LV 3. Absorption LV 1. Cooking LV max. Shaping LV 1. Title: One Who Broke the Limit. Walking in Another World, Chapter 297. Golem Production, Part 2. I'm surprised when I redo the golems the next morning. But then I remember the skills I learned and it makes sense. The golems can now walk about as fast as a person, so I'm having them walk with me. They're looking better too. But since they're the color of dirt, it's immediately clear that they're not alive. For now, I adjust the canine one so its body has black dirt, and put a robe on the humanoid one. I want to equip them with weapons and defensive gear eventually, but I need to make things that are both sturdy and light. Maybe it'd be faster if I just bought clothes made of monster materials. I also have them do mock battles when we take breaks, to improve their performance through their learning abilities. I'm told that I can't really call it taking a break if I do that, but it's not like I'm always fighting. We take turns. The same can't be said for the golems though, and thanks to that, I find problems. The first and the most glaring is durability. One hit from Sarah mercilessly destroys part of a golem's body. I figured that could have to do with not infusing enough magic energy when I made them, but it looks like the magic energy in their bodies is actually decreasing as time passes. This didn't happen when I made static things like walls, so maybe they spend energy when they move, much like people. And by using magic energy detection and watching it closely, I can really see the magic energy gradually decreasing. Could I infuse them with the absorption skill so they could take the energy they need from the air? If they could absorb magic energy from the air, that would be the best solution. But is there even magic energy in the air? I'm pretty sure there is in dungeons and stuff like that. What about solar power, or something like a battery that can hold magic energy? I don't think I can make something like that yet. Master, aren't you giving them weapons? I want to eventually. But the best would be shields. I want them to learn more about defense, and I want them to focus on defensive techniques rather than how to attack. I hope that process can be sped up as their learning abilities improve, and the life-granting skill levels up. Speaking of which, I check my skills and what skills have improved as they level up. The first one to come to mind is transfer. I think the difference is pretty dramatic. At first it let me move things like weapons instantly with magic, but now that it's sitting at level 7, I can even move people. Actually, it's more like it can move me instantly from point A to point B. Right now, the farthest I can go is 100 meters. I need to be able to see my destination too. But I can also use it in tandem with map. And if it's further than that, it doesn't work, and spends the MP anyway. It works on other people too, if they're touching me. But the more people I use it on, the more magic energy it spends, and the shorter the maximum distance. It feels like it could be useful to escape in case of emergency. But if I max it out, would it teleport me to places where I've been? That would be so useful. I've been to a lot of towns, and met all kinds of people, including people I'd like to see again. And since traveling takes a lot of time in this world, I'd be really happy if this skill grew to the point of getting an ability like that. Should we end the experiments with the Guillims for today? How come? We should be reaching the ruins tomorrow, so we should rest. I can check reactions with map, but who knows what might happen. So I seal the Guillims for now. We're going to have more opportunities to use them as we travel, so I'll just do it then. And if there are too many people on the main road, we can stray off it a bit. But if we do that and walk on rougher paths, that's going to put a burden on the others. But on the other hand, I want the Guillims to learn how to walk on bad paths too. And the Dark Forest, I'm sure it's going to be full of stuff like roots that make it harder to walk. So I'd rather have them get used to it before we get there. Worst case scenario, they're just going to have to learn on sight. That night, we leave the main road and camp. We're finally going to reach the ruins tomorrow, but I wonder what ruins are like in this world. How are ruins different from dungeons? I have never visited ruins either, and I haven't heard about many being discovered either. It seems even the knowledgeable Chris doesn't know. I didn't see any books about ruins in the Academy's library either. Then again, I didn't really look either, because I was looking into something else. But are they like dungeons, in that monsters appear? Could be, but Chris grabs her pendant, and looks in the direction of the ruins. She's curious about them, but she must also be worried about whether we can even get inside. The country is investigating them, so I don't know if regular people like us without any authority can go in. There's a good chance they'll just tell us to go away. Chris knows that too. But she can't help but be interested in that dream she had. Walking in Another World, Chapter 298, Ruins, Part 1. After 5 days of walking, there it is, surrounded by a wall. Probably to protect against monsters. We keep walking along a path that was hardened by people walking on it, until we reach the wooden gate guarded by 2 people wearing armor and holding spears. "What's your business here?" asks one of them while pointing his spear. He then starts looking at us like he's watching us closely. I doubt they'd believe me if I said we didn't come here looking for trouble. We would like to explore the ruins. Is that really not possible? I should just be direct. I think it's obvious anyway. No number. Only authorized people go in. His voice is actually sounding more heated now. What do we do? I asked the others after taking a step back. We knew after asking around the guild that there was little chance they would let us in, but I didn't think they'd be so unwilling to talk. And we didn't come up with any good ideas on the way here either. I feel like they're actually so unapproachable and worked up, that it makes me think something bad might have happened. I don't think showing our adventurer cards will do any good. Maybe if we were higher rank, says Rurika. I'm pretty sure they're rank B now. A big reason why they went up in rank was the amount of monsters they reported having defeated in Majolica. What's the matter? As we talk about what to do next, a little far from the gate, a man approaches. Having heard the commotion, he's wearing armor just like the gatekeepers, but compared to the young man's rough voice, his sounds calmer. They start talking, and eventually, he approaches us. Sorry, I know you heard rumors about the ruins, but currently, only authorized people are allowed to go in. This is an order from the higher-ups in the country, so his attitude is softer, but he's also clearly saying number. And yet, his eyes seem locked on one spot, and his expression gradually turns into one of surprise. I follow his gaze, and see he's looking at Chris' chest. Chris also realizes this, and seems perplexed. That's. He suddenly gets close, and keeps looking at her. Chris takes a step back, and the man quickly takes a step back too and bows. A really excellent one too, a textbook bow. I apologize. I'm Joseph, the captain of the guards here. What is your business here? We're surprised by his attitude, but the other two guards even more so. Captain, they are. You idiot. Be quiet. I apologize. He will hear more about this later. If you want him fired, he is gone. So, what is it you want here? Joseph asks Chris, with a low posture. The young gatekeeper that was yelled at by Joseph turns pale when he hears the word fired. Before that, can I ask something? Yes, what is it? I don't remember Mr. Joseph having this attitude. This time it's Joseph who's perplexed, but he soon nods, seemingly realizing something. Yes, I will tell you why. But we don't know who might be listening, so please come this way. Joseph orders the gate to be opened, and the guards rush to comply. He heads right in. But when he sees we're not moving, he quickly comes back. See, come in. These are your friends, correct? Then everyone come inside. There is no danger, I guarantee it. Chris seems a bit overwhelmed by how eager Joseph feels, and starts walking, and so, we start walking too. Once we're inside, we feel people's eyes focused on us, but they stop once Joseph roars at them. He called himself captain of the guards, but he might actually have a pretty high position. But what's more surprising is just how nervous he seems. Why is that? Hikari quietly calls his step weird because he's walking with his arms and legs out at the same time. That's fair. I don't know if it's because she was too quiet for him to hear or because he's too nervous, but he doesn't change his step. This way, Commander. I brought guests. We walk pretty deep, until we reach a big tent. Also, two knights wearing heavy equipment stand at both sides of the entrance to the tent. Those knights also smile awkwardly at Joseph's strange behavior, but one tries to calm him, and the other goes inside. Not long after, he comes back. You can go in, he whispers, and steps out of the way. He also warns us not to be rude, but Joseph doesn't hear that part. Walking in Another World, Chapter 299, Ruins. Part 2. What is it, Joseph? I don't think we had any particular appointments today. The woman in front of us says. Apparently she's referred to as Commander, and she's in charge of the team exploring the ruins. But why Commander? She's sitting down, and seems to be locked in a fierce battle with paperwork. I'm sorry, but Joseph introduces Chris, and when the woman raises her head, she gulps. She gets up with a clunking noise, and her footsteps echo as she walks over to Chris. Her eyes show surprise, and she reaches out towards Chris' pendant, but stops. Then she takes a big breath. I see. I understand why you brought them. It's nice to meet you all. My name is Riza Lee, and I'm responsible for the team exploring the ruins. More importantly, that pendant. How did you get it? I was given this pendant by Philo, the person managing an orphanage. No, I don't know a lot about it either, but she told me she was told by Grandma Morrigan to hand it to me. The mood has clearly changed. It's not just Lee there. Joseph and the rest of the staff here too. They are reacting to Morrigan's name. I see. So it was through Miss Morrigan. Why yes. She looked after us when we were younger. Is that so? I understand. So what is your business here? Well, to be honest, I don't really know, but after I put on this pendant, I got this feeling that I had to go to the ruins. I'm sorry, I can't explain it very well. It's just a feeling she has, so Chris doesn't know how to explain it. I understand. So is it safe to assume that your objective is to explore the ruins? Chris nods, and Risley writes something down and hands it to Joseph. Use this to give them a permit to investigate the ruins. Also, arrange for a place for them to stay, and tell them about the ruins. Thank you. No problem. But the investigation is almost over. There might not be much to explore. Risley says the ruins aren't all that large, so most of the places they can investigate have been investigated. She also says that they found all sorts of things, so if we do happen to find anything new, we should report and present it to them. Joseph then takes us to the lodging facility, and introduces us to the staff and adventurers present. They seem particularly surprised that we have a permit to investigate, like they're perplexed that they're giving permits this late in the game, when pretty much everything has been explored. But they continue carrying out their duties without any weird questions, probably because Risley herself issued the application for the permits. You will be staying here. This is all we have available. Will that be an issue? Joseph peeks over at me. When the girls nod, I see his expression turn into kind of a jealous one. You're wrong though. We've camped together so many times, that unfortunately, there's a very good chance that they don't even see me as male anymore. It's scary how people get used to things. And me? I guess the same can be said about me. Even if I take some distance from them when it's time to sleep, I'm sure it's because we've spent so much time together at this point. Or maybe I've been building up resistance because of how clingy Hikari was when I met her. She hasn't been coming over to sleep alongside me recently. But I'm not lonely or anything. Anyway, it's late, so we should explore tomorrow. Yes, apparently there are adventurers who camp in the ruins, but there is no need to go out of our way to go right now. Chris agrees with me. She looks tired. The extremely polite way she was treated left her perplexed, and was probably taxing on her mentally. Should we review what we learned about the ruins? Says Ruruka, and we talk about what to do next over dinner. Incidentally, said dinner is food we brought. They weren't expecting us, and I imagine they don't have a lot of food to begin with. I preemptively prepared food for us because I felt that was the case based on the situation in Nil. That said, I still have a good number of monsters in the item box. I'd like vegetables too, from a nutrition point of view, but high-rank monster meat should cover it. The problem is whether or not we'll get sick of it. Hikari would probably be happy eating only meat, but only if it's properly seasoned. Right now, we know that the ruins consist of the buildings on the surface, and 3 floors underground. Apparently they're checking to see if there are any hidden rooms. They said there are a lot of small rooms. And they even found magic items. Yes, and they're having an historian examine a mural in the 3rd basement floor. Say Ruruka and Sarah, to confirm. The rest of us chime in from time to time, but it's mostly them talking. Hikari doesn't say anything, but at least she's listening, while stuffing her cheeks with meat. Anyway, let's go around checking the rooms tomorrow. They say there aren't any monsters, but let's be careful anyway, says Ruruka, wrapping everything up including our course of action for tomorrow. But there are things in Joseph's explanation that caught my attention. He said there are no reports of monsters, but sometimes when they entered a room, stone statues attacked them. And apparently those were the places where the magic items were. And the thing that I'm most curious about, is that among the items they retrieved, they found something similar to Chris Pendant. It's true that Chris Pendant has a design that's peculiar in this world, but are the two things related? I fall asleep while thinking about that. Walking in Another World, Chapter 300, Ruins, Part 3. Ruins. The first thing that comes to mind when I see them is a house. And it looks like a Japanese-style house from the outside. But once we go inside, it looks a lot more like the typical construction in this world. The exploration itself ends up being pretty plain. Then again, we're only going around the surface and the 1st and 2nd basement floors on this first day. Just as Risley said, everything that could be taken, has been taken, so we don't really find anything new. Actually, we do find something. It's a painting drawn on a wall. Of course, it's not like we're the first to find it, but something is hidden in it. There are about 20 paintings drawn on walls in the 1st and 2nd basement floors, and most are things I don't really understand. But I do see something I recognize, Altair, in the Dragon Kingdom. The town seems a little different, but there's no mistaking that castle shape. I'm getting off topic. Those paintings on the walls aren't just drawings, there are characters too. I think Chris is the only one who recognizes those characters, Everyone else just sees them as part of the paintings, and Chris herself can only recognize them because Morrigan told her about them. Apparently it's an ancient language used by elves, but it seems like there's no meaning to those characters. They're just characters carved into the walls. Oh, what is this? Chris is looking at the fourth painting with a lot of interest. And where she's looking, there doesn't really seem to be anything. Chris, what do you see? This is a painting of an island, right? Asks Ruruka. And Chris responds while tilting her head. Here, I think there is a character. Now we're the ones tilting our heads. Ruruka is right. Where Chris is pointing, there is a painting of an island. There are no characters. Chris says the character is glowing faintly. I ask her what kind of character it is, and she says it's SH in that ancient language. And there's another character grabbing her attention. But I notice this one too. On the top right of the painting, there is the character 3 carved. 3. That's a symbol that doesn't exist in this world, but it did in mine. We go around all the rooms in the first and second floors, and find 16 characters. Among them are characters that are not only used in ancient elven language, but also in current language, and language used by beast people. Chris can't read all of it, so I note them down and decipher them. With the assistance I have from being from another world, there's nothing I can't read. But could it be that you were able to see them because you're an elf? Asks Ruruka. But no one can answer. We don't suspect the pendant, because everyone held it. But no one else saw the characters. But is there a meaning to them? Asks Sarah. And I have a theory. I can't say for sure yet, but I definitely saw numbers carved into those walls with the glowing characters. They were from 2 to 24, and if we line them up following that order, we get words. It's not complete yet, but I think we'll figure it out once we look through the third basement floor. Characters from Sora's world. Are these ruins related to otherworlders? Asks Mia, and all I can say is probably. But when were these ruins built? How long have they been here? It looks like they've deteriorated over many years, but the interior has some sort of magic energy that left it in a very good state of preservation. Part of the surface is destroyed, but everything underground is still looking good. I thought we would stay in the ruins for days once we entered them, but it's nice how easy it is to move in here. Ruruka is right, this environment makes it very easy to move around. In dungeons, to reach the next floor, we have to move from the entrance to the exit of every floor, which are far from each other, and that takes time. But here, there's only one staircase. We could go right to the third basement floor if we wanted to. It feels less like ruins, and more like a house. I think they're calling this ruins because of the size of one of the underground floors. But I've heard that the others investigating have been staying in the ruins, even though they could just go back and rest well. Sarah, when researchers take interest in something, they dive in head first. Well, that's just how I see it anyway. It must be trouble for the adventurers accompanying them. We eat, talk for a while, and decide to go to bed early. At this rate, we should finish checking the paintings on the third basement floor tomorrow. What do the glowing characters mean? I'm kind of excited, before I fall asleep. By the way, the characters we found today are USH the PRF of and SH the part THBN ed for you. Is it a password of sorts? Walking in Another World, Chapter 301, Ruins, Part 4. As soon as we're done having breakfast, we go into the ruins. Today our destination is the third basement floor, and the moment I step foot inside it, I sensed the presence of people. The first and second floors were deserted, but I heard the third floor is still being investigated, so I'm sure that's what's going on. It's a pretty large area, so when I check map, I see 30 people nearby. It looks like they're around the center of this floor. We can leave that to the end, so we're going to go room by room again today. That's actually going to be a pain because there are close to 50 rooms on this floor. We borrowed a map, but this isn't constructed like a labyrinth like dungeons are, so there's no danger of getting lost in the first place. What we really need is patience to get through this mostly boring work. It looks like it's a little tough on Ruruka, Sarah, and Hikari in particular. The empty rooms are really empty, but there's nothing we can do about it. It'd be a different story if there was treasure to find, but it's all been explored. At first I wondered if we could actually still find something, but no, there's nothing at all. The one thing that's left are the wall paintings, but they're not particularly artistic, and most of them are so abstract that I don't know what I'm looking at, so I don't get anything from them either. At first I thought I just lacked the sensitivity, but everyone else feels the same way, so I think the paintings are the problem. And it's not like there's one in every room either, and when we enter a room and see nothing, it really takes a toll on our motivation. There's a storehouse, but all that's left are empty shelves. Maybe I shouldn't be thinking this, but if monsters appeared, at least there would be some tension, although we are still a little careful. That makes 22. We found 8 wall paintings on both the first and second floors. We found 6 on the third floor so far, so if it's the same as the other 2 floors, that means there are 2 paintings left. At this point I'm pretty sure I can figure out the message, but we've come this far, so we might as well find the last 2. That said, we still don't know where to use these characters even after we find them. Maybe Chris Pendant will react to it in some way. But it doesn't look like it's doing anything. I feel a mix of expectation and worry as we continue checking the paintings. There are 2 rooms left. We enter the first one, and see a space that looks like a big hall, along with 30 visitors that got here before us. People react with caution when they see us, but they ease up a little when they see the map we have, and suffice to say, none of us are holding our weapons. I haven't seen you around here. Are you here to investigate? Rurika nods, looking a little nervous. Apparently this adventurer is high rank, and pretty famous in the Republic. He looks to be a veteran adventurer, and his name is Slain. There's no trace of the usual roughness that you'd expect from an adventurer, and he speaks softly and like a gentleman. We are planning to return soon, although our companions are still quite heated, he says as he looks at 5 researchers who are glued to a painting. And just as I think that we aren't going to be able to check it, Slain talks to them, and asks them to let us have a look. Don't worry, they need to take a small break as well. He has a smile on his face the whole time. Rurika and Chris smile too, and say he's just like the rumors say. Although the women adventurers who I guess are his followers are glaring this way really hard, the men all have awkward smiles on their faces. I'm assuming they're used to this. And then we check the wall, and find the 20th character, Op. When we put them all together, it says, if you show the proof of friendship the path will be open for you. It feels like something a noble or something in a video game would say. I try whispering it, and nothing happens. Don't look, it's embarrassing. There's 1 room left. Would something happen there, or not? If nothing happens, does that mean this whole thing was pointless? But it's so elaborate, to the point where they even used characters from another world, that I want to believe there is a meaning to it all. What now? The next room is the last one, but should we rest a little? Hikari is the first to react to those words. Yep, she's hungry. She was looking a little down earlier, so I'm glad to see her reacting normally. We go a little further away from Slain and the others, and start preparing our food right away. I say prepare, but since we can't start a fire here, I'm just taking stuff already cooked out of the item box. But thanks to space-time magic's level being maxed out, it's warm like it's freshly made. After we eat, we enter the final room. On the way here I was wondering if something would happen, but it's another room just like the others, with no real peculiarities in sight. But when Chris, the last one in, enters the room, it all changes abruptly. I can't even process what's happening. The scenery around us is different, like we were just warped somewhere else. This sudden phenomenon leads Rurika and Sarah to immediately draw their weapons and hold them ready. I check map, and it doesn't look like we moved to another room, but the reactions of the people that should be nearby are gone. Is this some sort of separate space? I don't understand anything anymore. My thoughts can't keep up with this very sudden development. We're all cautiously looking around us, until a person appears in front of us. No, this is like a hologram. The person displayed by the hologram looks to be a man in his 20s with black eyes and black hair. More importantly, his features lead me to believe he's Japanese. And then, the hologram starts speaking. You who cleared the conditions, are you from another world, or from this? What I'm about to say is the truth, the path I have taken. And a confession. Walking in Another World, Chapter 302, Records of a Certain Otherworlder, Part 1. My name is Yutaka, and I'm one of the people summoned from another world. He looks to be 20-something years old. If you're seeing these records, did you understand the words I left behind, or was it just a coincidence? I have no way to make sure, but I want you to listen, and if possible, save them. It's a one-sided conversation, but it's basically a video, so it is what it is. I used to live in a different world. I was called here along with my classmates, and ordered to fight the Demon King. We were told that was a condition for our return to our world. He looks like his eyes are facing far away. Is he thinking back to that time? After a fierce battle, and a lot of sacrifices, the Demon King was defeated. Many of my classmates died, and I lost most of my power in that battle too. I can see even through this image that he's clenching his fists tightly. Is he frustrated? What awaited me after this was a cruel reality. Not only was there no Demon King core, but a demon also told us the Demon King was originally human. He said the Demon King was born when the world was overflowing with negative emotions, to prevent it from breaking. We didn't even know if that was true anymore. He says a lot of his classmates who heard that were grief-stricken. There was no way to return to their world, even though that hope was what kept them fighting. Once that hope was lost, some even lost their minds. The demon was gone, and we returned to confirm the real situation. We didn't know what was truth or falsehood anymore. But that was the worst thing we could have done. All that awaited us was betrayal. On the surface, we were received as the heroes who defeated the Demon King, but the moment we pressed them for answers, the mask of kindness was torn off and they attacked us. Suddenly I feel eyes on me, and when I turn to look, I see Chris and the others looking at me with worry. I say I'm fine, and turn back to the image in front of us. Ignis already told me there was a good chance I couldn't go back. My partners were taken one after the other, and in the spur of the moment, I used my last skill. My skills were special. They were extremely powerful, but they came with a cost. There was a risk that I would lose skills. He says that was his first regret. At the time, I only thought about saving myself, and ran away. Once my head cooled off, I tried to save the others, but I lost my skills and had no one else to turn to, so there was nothing I could do. Thinking back, I was like a caged bird all that time. All I did was fight, so I didn't understand this world at all. He says that looking back, he saw that they were purposefully keeping them ignorant. I left the country to escape, and kept on moving forward without anything to do or anywhere to go, until I collapsed. Then I met a girl. I knew about people like her. Elves live long lives, so they're very wise people. That was what I knew from my world, but what I heard here led me to believe that was true anyway. His face turns into a light smile. Is he feeling nostalgic, or is it just a good memory for him? She called herself Lorna, heard my nonsensical ramblings without any displeasure showing on her face, and in the end, asked a question. What do you want to do? Apparently her eyes healed his despairing heart after he lost everything. I wanted to save the others, but I knew right away it couldn't be done. It was impossible for one person to go against the whole country. Maybe there would be a way if I could still use skills, but I lost those too. So, what could I do? Once I started thinking about that, I figured I could warn people who would come next. That was what I worked for, to try to save people from being victimized like me and my classmates. And that was when Lorna said she would help him. She helped me investigate, but there was so little time. I had no way to look into the truth about the Demon King either. I looked into the eras when Demon Kings were born, but it would be at least decades, maybe over 100 years until the next Demon King was born. If I was unlucky, my lifespan wouldn't be enough. It seems obvious, considering the lifespan of humans. Not to mention that daily life in this world is full of dangers. When I said this to Lorna, she told me there might be a way, but if it went badly, I could lose my life. I clung to it. I felt like I already died once, so if there was a chance, I wanted to try it. Lorna said she was worried about what he said, but he was still determined. He knew he was being obstinate, but that was the only way he knew how to live at that point. Yutaka realized he was reckless at the time. That way she talked about was to receive blood from the Dragon King. If I didn't adapt, I would die, but if I did, it would extend my lifespan. I didn't know how long it would give me, but I jumped at the opportunity. I understood it was foolish, but if there was a chance. He says he pictured someone stern when he heard about the Dragon King, but he was generous. The impression I got was a little different. Is it just me? The Dragon King thought about it, and in the end, performed the blood ritual. Lorna's words probably played a big part in that. But even though I walked the line between life and death, in the end, I adapted. The Dragon King said that when I began to age, the effect of the ritual would be starting to wear off. Still, I would live at least 500 years, so that was enough. He continues, and I get a good picture of what he saw. To summarize, The Demon King tends to be reborn when a lot of people die in a big war. It's like it's stopping the destruction of mankind, or even distracting the attention of influential people fascinated with the idea of war. I also understand now that every time a Demon King is born, people are summoned from another world, and it's always the Kingdom of Elysia that does it. Also, they don't let people summoned from another world leave because they're powerful, and have powerful skills. They take and use their blood, and apparently make powerful warriors. Yutaka says that's how what was originally a small country gradually expanded. When I hear that, I turn to Hikari. It looks like she hasn't realized it, but maybe. She has black hair, and features not very common in this world. She might have inherited the blood of otherworlders from the past. Walking in Another World, Chapter 303, Records of a Certain Otherworlder. Part 2. Yutaka's monologue isn't over. I learned there are two ways to be summoned into this world. A summoning performed by the goddess, and an artificial one performed by the kingdom. With the first method, the people summoned are returned to their world after their mission is complete, meaning, defeating the Demon King. Why are there two methods? Because it takes a lot of magic energy to artificially perform a summoning. Apparently the goddess performs a summoning when the other option isn't available. And it sounds like the goddess summons people when there's been considerable damage done already. And I guess Yutaka thinks it's to inflict some punishment on humanity. Also, it sounds like there have been eras with more than one summoning rituals. Probably because the Demon King fought off the people who were summoned at first. But lately, one summoning has been enough. It's probably because the ones summoned are trained thoroughly until there's no doubt that they'll defeat the Demon King, before being sent out to fight it. Afterwards, he continued observing, and over the years, put together a fighting force, and even took steps to save descendants of otherworlders, who were being used by the Kingdom of Elysia. But before he could do that, something happened. It was sudden. After spending hundreds of years together, one day, Lorna was chosen to become a Demon King. She disappeared, but Yutaka knew very well where she was after becoming Demon King. She was deep in the Dark Forest, with the Demon King's castle serving as her base. I joined forces with my remaining partners, and headed to the Dark Forest. There I was reunited with the demon I met back then, and her, and learned the truth that eluded me all this time. It was no coincidence that Lorna was chosen to become Demon King. The goddess was stopping us. No, that's not all. She said the goddess had fun watching us despair after she was chosen to become Demon King. He asked why Lorna thought so, and she said a fraction of the memories from generations of Demon Kings were inherited by her. Lorna said that to the goddess, the Kingdom of Elysia who spread chaos on this world is a nice tool she uses to pass the time. After hearing that, one of my partners sensed danger, and then another one, and they left. Maybe that seems cold, but it was natural. All I could do was thank them and give them parting gifts in the end, but I never saw them again. Among the things he gave them, was something that looks a lot like the pendant Chris has. Maybe it doesn't just look like it. I was the only one left, and I used the ancient language she taught me, Japanese, and other languages to try to write a book to serve as a warning, like a last desperate attempt. But that was in vain, and in the end, I was given a dishonorable name. When it was all said and done, I took her life, and couldn't save anything or alter fate at all. All that remained for me was solitude and regret. Then the image cuts and changes, and this time, it shows Yutaka as an old man. How much time has it been? I am starting to grow old. As I thought about how all that is left is to wait for death, I started writing alone, and received a nostalgic visit. If the demons are on the move again, does that mean a new Demon King has risen? I asked, and the demon, nodded. Yes, and I happened to hear that your life will be ending soon. I wanted to see you one last time. I see. To have a laugh? Of course not. On the contrary, I wanted to pay my respects. We demons also want to change the world, and preparations are steadily advancing. How would you change it? Simply put, by killing the goddess. It might be foolish to think about killing a god, but we can't sit idly by and watch the Demon King be killed. Although we have tried it many times and failed. So you're also struggling? I never expected that among the few people sympathizing with me, one would be a demon. We are not going to see results right away, but one day it will be done. The number one issue is investigating a method to kill the goddess reliably. That goddess is a sly fox. I see. Haha, Hearing that makes me feel a little more at ease. Quite a few people began to sense the danger after reading what you wrote. We could even say they were saved by it. Before I knew it, there were tears on my face. I thought it was for nothing, but there were some rewards. I see. Then the rest is up to you. I want to leave a magic item I got in a dungeon with what I learned in the form of records. It might work better than me. What the people who hear your story do depends on them. There is a good chance those records will be helpful to someone. But I think you should attach some sort of condition. If you let just about everyone have them, it defeats the purpose. I see. But are you sure about this? Won't the goddess catch on to what you're doing if you speak to me like this? The goddess is not all-powerful. Don't worry about that. Not to mention that to that sly fox, our resistance is basically just a game to pass the time. There is a good chance that even if she learns about it, she will leave us be to enjoy our despairing faces. As I heard this, I remembered the time when Lorna was chosen as the next Demon King. There wasn't a god in my original world. No, there probably was, but I just didn't feel his presence. Well then, farewell, visitor from another world. We won't meet again, will we? Said before leaving. I was left alone, along with my records. I placed special conditions to enter this room. One could only enter this room if people of various races were present. This world is not just populated by humans, there are many other races like elves, beast people, dragon people, spirits, fairies, and demons. But they don't really get along, to the point where it's the cause of wars. And yet, if such a group is working together, I want them to hear my story. Maybe I'm hoping for a scene like the one that gave me strength long ago. I will also leave words in these ruins that only summoned people will understand. That means another condition is that another worlder has to be present in that group. It won't be in a conspicuous place, but if another worlder were to see them, they would know that it is a warning not to get close to danger. I wonder how the world will be by the time someone sees this. Will it be a different world thanks to the success of Wu's plan? Or will it be the same? I pray that it has become a world without a demon king. Walking in Another World, Chapter 304, Ruins, Part 5. Everything Yutaka said was shocking to me. But I understand that trying to tell other people is pointless. No one would believe it. Only the people related to that practice of summoning people from another world know about it anyway, and to others it wouldn't even feel real. Maybe some have realized what conditions lead to the birth of a demon king, but only those of races with long lifespans that have seen it happen multiple times. Should we just go outside first? The image is gone, and suddenly we're back to where we were. I think we check this room. But just like the other rooms, we don't really find anything special. Suddenly, I think about Chris' pendant and turn its way. No, I'm not looking at her chest. Is that pendant one of the things that Otherworlder handed to other people? I turn around to leave, but stop. There's a pattern near the exit. No, it's just that the letters were scribbled in such a way that it looks like a pattern. I look at it, and my thoughts stop. This time, the Demon King beat back the summoned people 3 times. The 4th time, the goddess descended to join the battle. It feels like even the person who wrote it was confused. So the goddess appeared in this world to defeat the Demon King? I'm curious about that too. But I'm more curious about where Yutaka learned this. Was it through a skill? But I'm pretty sure he said he couldn't use them. I don't even know if he wrote this, but at the very least, this is Japanese. Sora, did you find something? No, nothing. Really? You look pale. It was kind of shocking. Chris and Mia sound worried, but I tell them I'm alright, even though I'm really not. How do I tell them this? I don't know, so I act like I always do to try not to worry them needlessly. I'm really feeling that no matter what happens, I need to start increasing the proficiency of my skills even more. Suddenly, I remember the Dragon King Fang I got from the Dragon King. The god-killing item. Did he give it to me because he knew this? Does that mean the Dragon King wants to kill the goddess? It's at times like these that I feel it's inconvenient that I can't just ask and check right away. When we leave the room, the hall is wrapped in a tense atmosphere. Slane notices us, and comes this way to say there's an emergency. I don't know what happened, but we received a transmission declaring a state of emergency. Apparently Slane and the others were given a magic item so they could be contacted if it was necessary. They're getting ready to head back, but the researchers keep grumbling. They keep saying that if something like that is happening up there, they should stay down here for safety, but it's clear what they really want. What should we do? Mia sounds nervous, because she senses how tense Slane is. We should go back up. I want to know what is going on too, and worst case scenario, we might end up being buried alive. If it's an attack, there's a higher than zero chance that the house up there will be destroyed and we'll be stuck in here. I think even if we were buried, I could do something about it with magic, but we really should check what's going on. I don't know if they heard me or what, but it looks like Slane and the others managed to convince them, so we start moving. Slane's group is first, followed by the researchers, with us at the end. As we get closer to the surface, we start hearing noise, and at the same time, feeling vibrations. The researchers look shaken, and I become more cautious, because the attack might be more fierce than I thought. Slane stops, turns around, and signals to his partners. The one holding a shield moves to the front, and is the first to jump out. The other adventurers follow with melee weapons in hand, with the sorcerers behind them, as they all head outside. The researchers fearfully follow, and then stop. We peek outside from behind them, and are at a loss for words. There's no damage on the area above the ruins, but the simple building that was fine this morning has been destroyed, and the place where we met Rizoli is on fire. I hear loud noises reverberating and shaking the ground, and then the sounds of weapons, and monsters yelling. The researchers crouch and grab their heads, but some members of Slane's team make them stand and guide them, and we start moving in the opposite direction. First, I check the situation with map. With presence detection and magic energy detection, I capture a lot of monster reactions, but there are also new human ones. I can't imagine reinforcements would get here so soon. So, are they attacking? But people and monsters attacking at the same time? I explain the situation, and watch my surroundings while hurrying to a corner where I think the battle is happening. Walking in Another World, Chapter 305, Attack, Part 1. Once we reach the place where the simple lodging house was, we get a good idea of the scope of the damage. The gate where we stopped before entering the ruins has been destroyed, and what's left is on fire. There are many people wounded, and it looks like some are dead. I don't know how long it's been since the attack started, but I feel like it hasn't been that long since Slane received that message warning of an emergency situation. If the damage is so widespread, does that mean the enemy is very strong, or were they really caught off guard? Sora, there. I look to where Mia is pointing, and see Joseph. He's on the ground and not moving. Once I get closer, I see blood pouring from a large cut. But he's still breathing, just barely. His chest is moving up and down just a little. Mia crouches and casts heal while I pour a potion on the wound. The wound closes quickly, but even though he's awake, he's still not moving. Is it because he lost a lot of blood? Drink this. It's a potion. It's actually blood-forming medicine, but I don't have time to explain now, so I just say it's a potion. Thanks. What happened? I don't know. I just know we were attacked all of a sudden. At first it was monsters, but then humans appeared. According to Joseph, they were fighting back the monsters that suddenly appeared, when a group of humans appeared from the opposite direction and attacked from behind. The gate was broken, and they tried to catch the invading bandits, but he was wounded as they tried to counterattack. Take these. Use them if you find any wounded people. Hey, are you sure? And what are you going to do? We're going to beat back the invaders, I guess. I use presence detection, and catch a few weak reactions. Should we help them first? I'm about to step forward, but stop, and jump back. Magic explodes on the ground, and raises a cloud of dust. I look up, and see a man standing between monsters. I stop completely when I see him. He has a mask, and black hair like me. You dodged that. Not bad. And I thought it was just some nothing order, but I found something I wasn't expecting. The man opens his mouth widely, and howls with joy. An elf, who knew I'd find one here. And, more importantly, number 13. Weren't you dead? I'm dumbfounded for a moment, but his anger-filled yells bring me back. What did he say? Elf? I peek over at Chris, and her transformation is working. Does that mean he has appraisal? And she has equipment with appraisal obstruction too. And he said number 13 while looking at Hikari. If he knows that, he's probably from Elysia, and one of the people doing dirty work for them in the shadows, like Hikari was. But that leaves me to question why someone from Elysia is here. Well anyway, we'll just have to neutralize you. Do it. Exactly. We can ask questions after we neutralize you. But who is he giving orders to? My question is immediately answered when the two tiger wolves next to him attack. I stand in front of them, and Sarah stands next to me with weapons in hand. Rurika quickly unsheaths her weapon too, and moves to the side to support, but Hikari is slow to react. Actually, she's not moving at all. And the movements of the tiger elves are weird too. I try to block an attack and counterattack, but I can't kill its momentum, and it pushes me back. I'm not blown away, but I'm late to react because it's stronger than I expected. It looks like Sarah's the same. She also tries to counterattack, but it dodges. Sora, these are stronger than regular tiger elves. It's not like individual monsters are all exactly the same, and they can get stronger by growing and evolving. But in those cases, there are little changes in their appearance. I don't see any of that in the monsters in front of us. Then why? I cast appraisal on the man, and see the reason. Name, Shahuza. Job, Spy, Monster Tamer. Race, Human. Level, 46. Condition Monster Tamer means he can form contracts with monsters and put them to work, and make them stronger. So the Monster Tamer is correcting and making them stronger? That means we should neutralize Shahuza first, but he's not going to make that easy for us. Once Shahuza sees us block the attacks of the tiger elves, he calls more monsters. 2 orcs. We don't have the numbers. Maybe we could bite time and deal with them if Hikari was moving. But we can't even do that. Rurika and I will handle the orcs. Sora, take down the tiger elves first. I turn and see Chris has undone her disguise, and it looks like she's going to use spirits to attack. Mia is going to protect Hikari. I don't feel completely sure about this, but I create 2 golems and send them over there to help them. I can tell by their movements that they're not going to take down any monsters, but they can at least serve as shields. I swing my sword, and focus on the tiger elves. I'm pretty proud of the fact that I've been fighting while also dealing with those other things by using parallel thinking. Now it's time for us to counterattack. I drink an X mana potion, and start attacking. Walking in Another World, Chapter 306, Attack, Part 2. Just attacking isn't going to be enough to take down the tiger elves. Then how do I create an opening? Going after Shahuza really would be more effective. Obviously, he's not going to make that easy, but attacking him would still be advantageous. By using presence detection, I can see half the attackers are monsters. I don't know if they're all being controlled by Shahuza, but since they're only attacking his enemies, he must have some control over them. And at the same time, if Shahuza senses danger and keeps calling monsters this way, that will change the situation of the battle elsewhere, and it might help us turn the situation here to our advantage too. And so, I keep fighting the tiger elf, but also fire magic and throw knives with magic infused. Sometimes I aim straight at Shahuza, but I also try to look out for times when he's lined up with the tiger elf. But it feels like he might be aware of that, because he keeps running around while we fight. Being level 46 means he can move pretty well, but he still feels a bit slow. I block an attack from a tiger elf, and fire area of effect magic, unleashing Firestorm and Stone Shower to attack Shahuza from the front and back. First it's Firestorm from the front, and not long after, Stone Shower from the back. He reacts to Firestorm, and he's about to dodge, but the rocks attack him from the back. It takes him completely by surprise, but he manages to block, using his monster as a shield. I'm surprised by how quickly the tiger elf closed that distance, but pushing its body beyond its limits is making its movements dull now. I run towards it and finish it with a sword rush. It would have been a good idea to go Shahuza instead, but the moment I started to get close he ran away, and pushed the tiger elf in front of me. HMPH, useless thing, says Shahuza to the downed tiger elf, and calls 2 more. Now I'm fully on the defensive, but I don't rush, and wait for an opportunity. The monsters are being enhanced by him. But Sarah and the others have grown too. And as they fought monsters, so have their levels. Also, thanks to my natural recovery boost, my MP recovers faster than normal, so I'm waiting for it. The more MP I recover, the more options I have available. I face the tiger elves, slash at one of them, and fire magic at the other. The real attack is the slash, and the magic is to keep the other one back. But then, I feel something's off when the tiger elf is hit by my attack. At first I thought I was just imagining it, but I'm gradually being pushed back. My first thought is that it's because I'm taking on 2 at once, but number. And when Rurika and Chris take down a monster, that suspicion turns into a certainty. HMPH. Did you think things would get easier for you if you took down monsters? Joseph says with a confident smile, as he throws a knife from afar like he's supporting his monsters. I dodge it, but that breaks my posture, and I have to block it. Tiger Off's attack from an awkward position. The impact I feel is clearly stronger than before. No doubt about it. The less monsters there are, the stronger each one is. So that's why Shiuza looks confident even when monsters go down. I think Shiuza knows that I just reached this conclusion, because he smiles in a way that's like he's mocking me. He's provoking me. No, I need to stay calm. I can't let him control the pace. Yes, the monsters get stronger, but having less of them is still good for us. Even if each monster is stronger, other places are evenly matched with them. Actually, I just felt another monster reaction disappear. The guards led by Joseph are one thing, but according to Rurika and Chris, the adventurers participating in the investigation of the ruins are famous in the whole Republic for being strong. I'm sure they can take those monsters down. Shiuza notices what's happening too, because he's gradually losing that daring attitude. I'm done here too. Sarah finishes off a Tiger Olf, and immediately joins me and takes on one of the Tiger Olves attacking me. I see a good opportunity to use a skill, and throw 3 knives in quick succession. These aren't meant to hit, but they activate magic around the Tiger Olf. The small firestorms are activated near the Tiger Olf, and stop it from moving. I get close, and unleash a sword slash. The Tiger Olf is covered in flames, but still reaches out to try to block it with its claws. It can't dodge because the blast made it so it can't move very well, and it's probably using its previous combat experience to judge that it can block my attack. But this slash has more power behind it due to gravity magic. This slash, enhanced by a skill and magic, cuts through the Tiger Olf's defense and rips its body. Shiuza tries to call more monsters, but it feels like he realizes he can't. I think it's my aggressive offense that's making him think that. Our retreat, calls out Shiuza while quickly turning around. The monsters are still fighting, so he's planning to use them to escape. That yell was for the other combatants. I see him throw something on the ground, and smoke starts coming out of it, blocking my vision. It's like a smoke bomb a ninja would use. Walking in Another World, Chapter 307, Attack. Part 3. My vision is blocked, but by using map along with presence detection and magic energy detection, I can see where they're headed. I'm about to chase them, when I hear a monster howling like it's shrieking. It's a pained howl like nothing I've heard before, so I look in the direction where it came from, and see blood spraying as a monster attacks someone. It looks like it has lost all sense of reason, and its mouth is hanging open with drool flowing down. It swings its arm to attack, and more blood sprays from its body. It's so gruesome, that for a moment I forget that it's a monster and feel sorry. They're much stronger than before. Sarah crosses the axes she's holding in each hand to block an attack, but is completely outmatched in terms of raw power. We need to take down the monsters first, or the damage is going to keep increasing, so I focus on attacking rather than chasing the others. Half-hearted attacks are just going to prolong the battle. I pump more magic energy into my mithril sword, and start slashing. But the Tiger Olf jumps back and dodges, and when it lands, it jumps at me like a bullet. I quickly activate a shield and block it, killing the Tiger Olf's momentum. I slash at it again, but it dodges by jumping back again. I thought the exact same thing was happening again, but this time, Sarah's waiting when the Tiger Olf lands. The attack comes from a complete blind spot, and since its movements are limited as it lands, the Tiger Olf is cut in half without any resistance. Surprisingly, the upper half still wants to fight, and is still dragging itself to attack, but then stops. With all the Tiger Olves down, we go help the others. The orcs are also fighting like they've gone crazy, but Rurika is keeping calm. She knows how strong they are, and she's prioritizing evading their attacks rather than blocking them with her sword. And she's not chasing them too far, because she's fighting too at the same time. Chris is also using spirit magic more defensively, rather than to try to take them down. She's mostly using wind spirit magic to hinder their movements. Of course, she also attacks when there's an opening, but none of it is fatal. Still, the small wounds pile up, and as the orcs' movements get progressively worse, probably because they're losing too much blood, Rurika attacks and drives them back. Nice going, Rurika. I was waiting for you or Sarah to come. It was getting hard to dodge in the end, because it felt like they lost all sense of reasoning and were just attacking, says Rurika, and I see damage from the orcs' attacks all over the ground. I can picture attacks with that much force being fatal. It's incredible how she managed to stay calm among all that tension. Oh, what about Hikari and Mia? Ruruka says as she turns their way. But they look fine. And the Gillums are still the two. I'm pretty sure they'd be destroyed instantly if they were attacked, but the monsters never went their way. Shiuza knows Hikari, so he was probably thinking about capturing her after taking us down. Maybe the same goes for Chris. I saw a different look in his eyes the moment he realized she's an elf. Dret's letter said elves were being sent to Elysia, so maybe they really are gathering them in secret. Sarah and Ruruka, look after them for a bit. Where are you going? I'm going after them. They know who Hikari really is. I can't let them get away. I check map, and see they've gone pretty far. They're moving faster than should be humanly possible. They might be using skills, but in any case, I can't let them get away. I get an X-mana potion ready, and look in the direction where they're running. Of course, I can't see them, but what I need is visual confirmation. I activate transfer, move, check my position, and move again. I keep repeating this, and along the way, drink the potion and keep an eye on my MP. The skill levels as I go, increasing its maximum distance, and eventually, I can see them. I see 3 people riding monsters. I set up a firewall in their way, scaring the monsters, who drop the people on their backs. Shiuza lands on his feet like nothing happened, but the other 2 hit the ground hard. What? I finish the others before Shiuza can fix his posture. First I take out the monsters before they can be a nuisance, and then I kill the other 2 with magic. Ever since that time, I haven't felt hesitant about killing people. Obviously it wouldn't be the same if they were good, normal people, but they were the ones who attacked us, so I don't need to hold back. Damn you. I put my sword near his neck before he can say anything else, ready to kill him at any time. Answer succinctly. I know you're from Elysia, but why did you come here? Shiuza stays silent. Judging by the fact that he's not wearing a slave mask, I think it's safe to assume he doesn't need one. Who the hell are you? He responds with a question. Wait, that hair, and number 13. Are you the otherworlder from that time? He immediately reaches a conclusion, and the moment he mumbles that, his body suddenly explodes. I didn't do anything. Did he intentionally blow himself up? Did he see Hikari with me, and assume I was using some sort of skill to make her obey me? I'm guessing he took his own life because he thought I was going to use it on him and make him tell me what he knew. Or maybe people from Elysia made it so he would blow up when he was on the back foot like this. If that's how they raise these people, Hikari was pretty lucky. I look around, and after seeing nothing that could be a clue, I walk back to the ruins. I can't use mana potions one after the other, so I have to walk until my MP recovers naturally. Walking in Another World, Chapter 308, Ruins, Part 6. It took me about 30 minutes to make it back to the ruins. I didn't notice when I was using transfer, but Shiuza and the others actually ran further than I thought. And that's because I kept taking potions until they didn't work anymore. How far did you go? I was worried. Hikari isn't doing well. I follow Ruruka's eyes, and see Hikari holding on to Mia. It feels like her expression is murky too. When I tell them I went after them using transfer, they seem a little taken aback, and when I tell them Shiuza exploded himself, they say him too. Apparently when the battle was dying down over here, as soon as they started checking the corpses for any clues, they spontaneously exploded. Some people got hurt, but Mia and others healed them, so there wasn't much damage done. After this, we exchange information, and I'm told by Risley that the ruins will be closed off temporarily. She seems very apologetic, and bows, but we learned everything we wanted anyway, so there's no problem. Maybe we could have found something else if we investigated more, but I don't really think that would happen. She looks very relieved after seeing we don't have a problem with that. She then complains about the researchers, who do have a big problem with that, and leaves. Her expression was kind of scary when she was complaining about them. Closed. Maybe that will help the food problem in there a little. It looks like Chris is more worried about Null than the ruins. Depending on how exactly they're closed, I want to believe that too. That might not be so easy if people hear it was attacked, and that drums up more interest. Well then, Miss Risley, thank you for everything. No, I'm sorry for getting you involved in all that trouble. We're supposed to be thanking her, but she looks humbled instead. Apparently she fully sees Chris as a VIP. They don't know Chris is an elf? so it has to be just the pendant. What route are we taking? Are we stopping by now first? We're planning to finally head to the Demon King's country, but we need to stop by a town and resupply. We can ignore the main road and head straight to Margari, but I ask just to check. Let's go to Margari. We don't have to go to Nil, says Chris, and Rurika and Sarah nod. When I ask why, they say that if they stop there again, it'll be hard to leave. Not to mention that we can't restock on food there, so we should just keep moving forward. Also, the path from the ruins to Margari isn't a main road, but it's a grassy field, so there are medicinal herbs to be picked. We learned that in the Adventurer Guild, says Rurika proudly, and the other two look at her with lukewarm expressions. She doesn't notice, so let's leave it at that. Are you all right, Hikari? Yes. If you have a problem, don't hold back. Hikari seems to be doing better with each passing day, but she's still not fully herself. She only eats half of what she normally eats, and always needs to be with someone. Maybe seeing Shayuza brought back her lost memories. There are times when she suddenly looks anxious too. I decide to talk about this with the others. Sarah is particularly angry. Probably because after hearing Yutaka's story, she can imagine how Hikari was treated. Incidentally, I told Risley and only her about where Shayuza and the others came from. But I also told her I'm not 100% sure, and she asked me not to tell anyone else. It's up to the higher-ups in the Republic whether to look for evidence or leave it be. I don't think we need to get involved with it anymore. If Elysia finds out where Chris and Hikari are, we will need to deal with it. Leaving aside whether or not we can, we might have no choice but to do it. But why did they attack the ruins in the first place? Yutaka talked like he left all sorts of things there. So did they figure there were things there that are inconvenient for them? Maybe they were after the things found there, like the sort of rare magic items that are found in dungeons. It's been 8 days since we left the ruins, and we've reached one of our stops, Margari. I put away the golems when we're still far from the town, and we enter. One of the good things about crossing through a grassy field was that the golems were active the whole time. Some of us tried to ride the canine one, but it's unstable and uncomfortable. Then we stock up on food in Margari, stay the night, and keep going to the next town, Alkanite. After spending a night the two, we're almost in the territory of the Borshal Empire. There's no border city between the Republic and the Empire. We keep following the main road, but there's no checkpoint or anything either. At first I think that means we can just come and go freely, but when we reach Alkanite, which is near the border, we see watchtowers. There are also a lot of soldiers stationed here. Apparently the same goes for towns on the side of the empire that are near the border. That means that the actual border between these countries is an empty wasteland. Walking in Another World, Chapter 309, Intermission, Part 13. Are you ready? Then we are leaving. W8. Your Majesty Beast King. Are you really going? You idiot. Don't call me Beast King here. Ouch. Then what should I call you? Rickend. No. You just came up with that off the top of your head. Did you really not consider that before? Nonsense. Anyway, my orders are absolute. Follow me. But if the Beast King leaves, this place will. You idiot. Call me Rickend. If Mr. Rickend leaves, the country will be in trouble. There might be an invasion from the Dark Forest. Don't worry. I left Figgle in charge of it, and we are done evacuating the settlements near the forest. Seriously? Who told you to do that? That is a course of action very much unlike you, Mr. Rickend. Who do you think I am? The muscle he. Our Beast King. I might need to discipline you when this is over, but let's leave that aside for now. Let's go. But is all this really necessary? When you put the knights and adventurers together, it's about 500 people. That's the kind of battle that's about to begin. I wish we could bring more, but we need to be ready in case something happens. True, but it's definitely going to be a problem. I'm pretty sure I already explained everything. And I heard it, but if you feel uneasy, you can stay. No, I will go. If it's true, I can't just ignore it. Then trust me and follow me. And the same goes for all of you. Traveling after so long is not so bad. No number. You jump around all over the country. In the country and abroad are completely different. Not to mention that monsters here are a little stronger compared to the ones in our country, and more numerous. I have heard that it has been like that lately. They have been growing in numbers and becoming more violent. Does that mean the Demon King is growing stronger? Probably. No wonder those people over in Elysia are getting louder. It's because a large area of Elysia and the Empire border it. The monsters that just appeared probably came from the Dark Forest too. That seems likely. It's hard to cover the whole area, but we also border the Dark Forest a little. Is that all right? No problem. I have been preparing for that for years. Figgle was mumbling and asking if you were serious about that. Now it has been proven you were right. I said so, and at the time I just kept hearing muttering and mumbling. That can't be helped due to your everyday behavior. Hey, quiet. Anyway, let's hurry to the capital. Understood. But I have been wondering, why the capital? I know the fortress city is near it, but that place is already well defended. It couldn't be just because you wanted to visit it. Why are you looking away? Is that really why? Of course not. Then face me when you say it. You turned away again. Wow. Yes, not badly built. Well, it still doesn't compare to my castle. No, it's clearly different. We should have built ours like this. It feels so ceremonious. Safety first. Think about the people after your life, Mr. Rick. And actually, are there any? Exactly. I would love to know where that confidence comes from. So, what now? We will follow our original plan, and head to the Adventurer Guild to gather information. Tell the commanders of the Chivalry Corps to give orders to the knights to scatter and stand by. Very well. And don't forget to tell the commanders and representatives of the adventurers to gather. Very well. Mr. Rick and everyone is here. Good jobs following me on this long journey. Your first priority for now should be to rest. I think you already know our strategy. This is a mission that, worst case scenario, could be life-threatening. And so, I want to check. Are you sure you want to follow me? Very well. You have my gratitude. Rest well until the time comes. And don't forget your individual preparations. Dismissed. Are you sure about this? Yes, aren't you? Of course. My life already belongs to you, Mr. Rick, and all you have to do is command me. All right. But until then, let's have fun. You mean sightseeing, right? We are here anyway. Come on. Walking in Another World, Chapter 310, Border. It's been 3 days since we left Alkanite. Everywhere I look, all I see is wasteland. But by checking map, I can see we're right at the border between the Republic of Eldo and the Borshal Empire. And as we camp, I suddenly remember something important. Hey Mia, is it all right for you to go to the Dark Forest? Why the sudden question? Are you telling me to stay behind? I don't want to be left out. Mia doesn't sound happy about my question, but I'm worried about something else. Well, we might end up meeting Adonis. Was it the one that was disguised as a cardinal? The Dark Forest is the demon's sphere of influence. I guess if they live in the Demon King's castle we can just avoid it, but there's always the chance that we might bump into him. Of course, if he attacks, I'll do my best to protect Mia, and I'm not going to hesitate to eliminate him either if it comes to that. Mia takes no notice of my worries, and goes like she just remembered it too. I know I also forgot about it, but she's the one directly involved. That's scary. But I'm also a little thankful for it. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here now. And I believe that you'll protect me, she says strongly as her cheeks turn red, and I blush too. Rurika and Sarah grinning this way doesn't help either. Please don't play with me like that, it's mentally exhausting. We're going to take turns keeping watch tonight. I'll be with Hikari, Sarah with Mia, and Rurika with Chris. That way each group has someone to supply magic energy to the golems. I've actually made both smaller. I'm using them not for defense, but to warn us if monsters or suspicious people get near us. But doesn't that make them pointless right now? Kind of. But I'm increasing the proficiency of my skill, and they're learning. I made them smaller because if I left them as big as they were before, there was a chance that someone watching from a watchtower would notice them, and that'd be trouble. I saw that monster tamer before, but I've never seen someone command golems. That means I might draw attention and cause a fuss. I somehow feel like it would be alright in the Republic side of the border, but I think I need to be especially careful here in the Empire. When I think about the Empire, it's those adventures from Lightsword that come to mind, but according to Sarah, and Rurika and Chris, who have actually been in the Empire before, it's full of arrogant people, especially the ones with power, like nobles and other people of high status. I don't want to catch the attention of those people, get roped into trouble, and be forced to go fight in the dark forest. Rurika in particular is making sure to warn me about that. Once we reach the place Altsohak told us about, we'll have to pass by 2 towns, Draus and Astis. I was thinking it might be better if we avoided these towns altogether and went around them, but there's a good chance that straying off the main road will lead them to think we're suspicious, and detain us. Apparently there are patrol squads going around the main roads of the Empire. These patrols aren't there to protect travelers and merchants, they were put together to catch suspicious people. I've heard that the Empire was a place that believed in human supremacy, and was a nice place for humans to live. That's true for people in positions of power or people with influence. But the ones further down the chain are just squeezed dry. That means that there are quite a few people who get desperate and try to escape. Apparently extolling human supremacy and looking down on other races is meant to be a way to suppress the dissatisfaction. And some say that the fights between slaves and against monsters in Colosseums are at least in part for that reason too. Shouldn't we move without actually entering the towns then? I ask as I look at Sarah. Without a doubt. In the Empire, a beast person like her will be treated poorly. Maybe a special slave like Hikari won't be treated very kindly either. We stocked up on food in Margari and Alkanite, so we can probably avoid going there. I feel bad for Sarah. But we should go through them. I think you should really get a feel for what kind of country the Empire is. And since Draus is near the border, it's not all that bad. Although it's kind of a contradiction. But Rurika says it's still enough to understand how the Empire views other races. I mentioned Light Sword, and she says there are a lot of groups like them. And we should check what information we can get in the Adventurer Guild. The Empire is home to a lot of bandits, not just monsters. Incidentally, when Rurika and Chris traveled through the Empire, they did it mostly on omnibuses, and sometimes by accepting escorting quests. Then should we travel by omnibus too? I ask, but stop. Not because of my skill, but because of Sarah. We could pay and board one, but the environment wouldn't be good for Sarah. And then, 3 days later, we reached Draus. Walking in Another World, Chapter 311, Draus. I guess my first impression of this town is discomfort. We all present our cards when we go in, but the guard's attitude is really bad when it's Sarah's and Hikari's turn. With Sarah in particular, he has a contemptuous smirk on his face, and he doesn't even try to hide it. The other guard next to him sighs, so I think it's more of a personal issue with the other guard, but it still doesn't feel nice. When we actually get into town, it feels gloomy, or rather, dark. It's like there's no life to it, and people are all holding their breaths. There are towers built to watch the border, but the atmosphere feels so oppressive, that it makes me wonder if they're not actually there to watch the town instead. We don't often get visitors. Where are you headed? We came from the Republic. We want to stay for 2 nights, please. Rurika handles everything in the reception like she's used to it. The owner of the inn peeks at Sarah, but she doesn't really say anything. I guess she doesn't care who it is, as long as they pay to stay in her inn. But she asks a lot about our travels and our plans. Once we get to our room, Rurika tells me why. It's probably because we came from outside. If we looked suspicious, she'd have to report us. It's not really their duty, but if guests cause trouble, there's a chance that the inn's employees will be held responsible. That's why they want us to not cause any trouble, at least until we leave. Is that why she wanted to know our plans? Yes. She might have reported us. We didn't lie, so there shouldn't be a problem. The real issue is what we're going to say if they ask us in the next town. Rurika is right. Would they arrest us if we followed a path other than the main road and headed to the dark forest? We have to be honest and say we're going to the dark forest, and follow the main road until we're far enough away from town, even though it means we'll have to take a detour. If we headed west from Astis, we'd reach the imperial capital Hyle. To the northwest is the defensive city of Nov. We could follow the main road in the direction of Nov, and once we're far enough, turn to the dark forest. After this, we spend the day in the inn, and the next day, we go for a walk around town. Now that we're just walking around, I notice people's eyes on us. Is it that rare for them to see outsiders? We split into 2 groups. Rurika and Chris go to the Adventurer Guild, and the rest of us go shopping. Sarah is coming with us, because we're worried about hot-blooded adventurers starting trouble with her. At first I'm worried about unpleasant encounters in the middle of town too, but there aren't that many people walking on the streets, and more importantly, if someone starts unnecessary trouble, that person is also going to be punished severely. so it feels like people are trying to avoid contact. With that in mind, I start feeling like the looks people are giving us are less because they're monitoring us, and more because they're wary of us. Maybe from the point of view of an average person here, they just want no trouble. Would it be the same in the Adventurer Guild? Then again, adventurers tend to be rough, and people who act first and think later. It happened a lot to me too, but strangely enough, even though the adventurers in Elysia seemed the worst, they were in a way the most friendly and decent too. What is it with that smile, Sora? Master, creepy, say Mia and Hikari, and I tell them why right away. Hikari in particular remembers adventurers in the Holy Kingdom starting trouble with her, so she understands. I think you're just lucky. Sarah seems less convinced. Probably because they also believe in human supremacy. We buy food, stop by an equipment store, and buy magic energy herbs. I feel like buying them in equipment stores is a waste, but I need to make a lot of mana potions. The reason is simple: to level up my skills. I've been using magic whenever I have the time and MP to increase my skills proficiency, but after coming into contact with the darkness of this world in those ruins, I feel like that's not enough. Lately I've been more aggressive with how I use mana potions. We strayed off the main road from the ruins and onto Margari because Rorika told me about the medicinal herbs growing on that grassy field. Just don't overdo it, Sora, says Mia. But I'm focused on space-time magic and replication, because their effects get stronger as their levels go up. I want them to be as high as possible. It gets harder to level them up the higher level they are, but I have skill points, so worst case scenario, I can use those. I want to get them to level 9 at least. I want to do what I can now, rather than regret it later. And potions stop working for some time if I drink too much of them, so I can't really overdo it even if I want. That restriction is probably what's stopping me from pushing myself harder. And then, the next day, we leave Draus like we planned. Walking in Another World, Chapter 312, Estis, Part 1. As we stand in front of the town, Rorika and Chris look pretty surprised. What is it, you two? I'm just a little surprised at how much the town has changed compared to how it was the last time we were here. Chris, I think this goes well beyond calling it a change. They say that before, it used to be a town surrounded by the same kind of defensive walls we generally see in other towns, but now it feels closer to the South Gate City in Elysia. There are farms all around town, but with one key difference: the lack of any walls or fences around them. If monsters attacked them, wouldn't they all be taken out? Looking at them more closely, I get the feeling that maybe they just can't put fences around the farms because they're still expanding. And those cabins near the outer walls tell me people are probably living there. You're right. As we walk through the main road and look at the farms, we notice what look like simple cabins close to the walls. And we also see people working on the farms. Most of them have slave collars, and some are beast people. I don't think I've ever seen so many slaves in one place. Actually, I haven't seen many people walking around with slaves period. What's wrong, Sora? I was just thinking that I've never seen so many slaves in one place. Most slaves have been put to work in things related to the Dark Forest, but there were quite a few in the Beast Kingdom and Magic State. When I tell Rurika I didn't see a lot in Majolica, she says she saw a lot in the other dungeon city, Preeks. There are probably more slaves in this world than you think, says Sarah, as she looks in the distance. They say their safety is guaranteed, but all that really means is that their masters are prohibited from harming them. Their working conditions are definitely not good. Criminal slaves are treated particularly badly, and the ones who committed more serious crimes aren't shown mercy. Although in a way, they're reaping what they sowed. HMPH, a merchant? They're checking my identification, but their eyes are on the girls. One in particular is looking really harshly. The one handling me is very interested, but why? Don't start trouble, we hear as we enter the town. That guy was really staring at Sarah, to the point of being scary. Rorika and Chris noticed it too. Mia looks a little nervous, and Hikari is holding her hand and following her silently. We should talk about that later, quietly says Sarah, who was the one being stared at. And we stop talking. The mood in this town is even worse than Draus. People's eyes look distant when they're pointed our way. There are stalls along the main street, but it doesn't look like there's much activity. Should we stop by the guild, or stop by an inn first? Let's find an inn. Are you alright with that, Sarah? We go to an inn, and tell the owner we're doing business while traveling. When we're casually asked where we're going, we say we're still deciding whether to go to the defensive city of Nev, or the imperial capital Hyl. The owner seems surprised, and asks more questions, so I say I sell potions, and that I think I can probably make some good money in the defensive city. That means we probably won't look suspicious if we follow the main road to the defensive city. So, is there something on your mind? I ask Sarah when we enter our room, and she nods. That guard was one of the slave master's cronies when I was fighting in the Dark Forest. Didn't that noble get punished for something? That's what I heard. He was removed from that post. He volunteered for the defensive unit in the Dark Forest to get clout, ended up failing, and took his anger out on slaves. Word got out that he's gone because Sarah beat him back. Could he be here? If his cronies are, he could very well be. That was one of the ones that was always close to him. Then I'll go with Chris to the guild tomorrow, and you can all stay here. How does that sound? I'm staying. If people try to start something with me, that'd be a problem, and I don't want to see him if he's there. But I'm worried about you too, so I think Sora should go too. All right. Mia and Hikari, are you staying too? They say they're going to stay with Sarah. Hikari is always looking forward to checking out the stalls in a new town, but she's still not back to her usual self. On one hand, I'm worried about taking her to the Dark Forest like this, but on the other, it's not like I can leave her alone either, especially after what happened when I talked about undoing the slave contract in the Dragon Kingdom of Rufflet. I hope something happens that helps her recover, but I don't think there's anything we can do but give her time. Walking in Another World, Chapter 313, Estis, Part 2. Today I'm sleeping with Master, not with Mia and the others. After having dinner, and just around the time when we start to go to bed, Hikari rolls into mine. I look to the others for help, but they just mouth please. She's been very clingy with the others recently, so it's been a while since she slept next to me. We spent a lot of time together when we were camping, but she looked more serious than usual while keeping watch. We haven't slept like this in a while. Yes. Hey, Hikari. A lot happened when we went to the ruins, but were you shocked when they found out where you were? I don't think anyone escaped, so I doubt Elysia knows about us. That's not it. She holds me tightly. Now that I think about it, it was like this when we first met too. The difference is that now I can sort of read her expressions. Of course, I don't know what's causing Hikari to be like this, but I can tell something has her feeling hesitant. She keeps opening and closing her mouth a little, like she doesn't know if she should talk. Don't force yourself. If something's bothering you, you can talk when you're ready. Yes. After a while, I hear her sleeping. Judging by how she's acting, she might have regained her memories. Elysia captured the summoned people, and used their powers for their own gain. I'm sure Hikari is a descendant of these victims, and I think her black hair and black eyes are proof. I don't know what they made her do, but I can't imagine it was anything good. She had a slave mask, and was apparently made to do their dirty work. At least from what I could see, there's a good chance those memories are ones that would be best left forgotten. Maybe it would be easier to talk to Mia and the others than to me. No, that doesn't make me feel lonely. The next day, I go to the Adventurer Guild with Rurika and Chris. I haven't been in an Adventurer Guild in a while, and the mood inside feels a little brutal. I gulp without thinking when I step inside, and feel multiple eyes turning this way at once. I'm going to ask some things. Chris, go check out the quests with Sora. Is that because she thinks it's dangerous to leave me alone? There aren't a lot of hunting quests. This area is a wasteland, so it might not be a good environment for monsters to thrive. I don't think the wasteland matters, but it might be an environment that's difficult for monsters to live in compared to forests or grasslands. But among the quests, one stands out, the one about invading the Dark Forest. At the bottom it says the deadline is near, and the reward is much higher compared to the others. Does the deadline mean they're going to start soon? I don't know. Maybe it is already partially underway. The Dark Forest is big, but the goal is to defeat the Demon King. I think only high-ranking adventurers will actually participate in that, meaning the other, lower-rank adventurers, are tasked with opening a path. It makes sense to want the high-ranking ones to be fresh, and the people summoned from another world are among those high-ranked adventurers. But in this world without telecommunications, although there is a service to transmit messages, how are they going to coordinate? They both believe in human supremacy, But I can't imagine Elazir and the Empire working together either, especially since apparently Elazir wants to expand their territory. They're probably thinking about using this to weaken the Empire. Is humanity going to be alright? I can't help but wonder. But according to Yutaka, there was a time when they continued to summon people after they failed to defeat the Demon King, but eventually, they began to defeat it in the first try. Does that mean they have a surefire way to defeat the Demon King? What about the goddess descending? Will the goddess defeat the Demon King herself? What are you thinking about, Sora? How are they going to defeat the Demon King? I know exactly how strong demons are, so it's hard to imagine. I mean it. I heard about the damage Ignis did to the kingdom by himself. From my experience of standing opposite Ignis, I can tell I've never been more afraid before or since, no matter how many monsters I've faced since then. And I feel like that hasn't changed, even though I've grown. There were high-rank adventurers in the ruins, even A-ranked ones, but honestly, they can't hope to beat Ignis at that level. But do they actually need to beat Ignis? Rurika returns, and we head straight to the inn, without really walking around town. I feel like we're being watched the whole time, but maybe it's just in my head. But when I use presence detection, I sense someone following us. What an amateur, says Rurika. Walking in Another World, Chapter 314, Hikari, Part 2. Master is nice. Master's food is tasty. Being with Master is fun. Feeling those emotions for the first time made Hikari feel all warm inside. But sometimes Master says complicated things, and Hikari has trouble. He gets worried when Hikari is troubled, and pats Hikari's head. It feels good, and makes Hikari feel happy. Master taught Hikari lots of things too. One of them is cooking. He says Hikari can't do it alone, but Big Sister Mia and the others say that too. Why? When Hikari sees Master, who can do anything, Hikari feels proud. But as we traveled together, Hikari found one thing Master couldn't do, and Hikari decided to do what Master couldn't do. Hikari would end people, but now Master can do that too. Then what's Hikari good for? Master feels close and far away. Even if Hikari tries to walk at the same speed to catch up, the distance doesn't shrink. At this rate, Hikari is going to get left behind. There's a rustling in Hikari's heart. That's why when Master said to cancel the contract, it was such a shock. Big Sister Mia probably felt the same way, but she accepted it after talking to him. Her face looked happy from the side. It hurt a little in the chest. In the end, Hikari refused desperately, because once this collar is gone, we won't know anymore. Someone said number 13 for the first time in a long time. Hikari remembered. It was like before. There was a fog in Hikari's head stopping Hikari from seeing. But that's not because he said number 13. It was those dark, murky, jet black eyes. Those are Hikari's. No, ours. What are my first memories? I think about it, and remember a hard feeling in my hand. It was a big dagger. I exercised with it from morning till night. It didn't matter if I said it hurt. Day after day, I swung that dagger. Of course, that's not all I did. I did lots of things, and it was all painful. Every day, it was incessant. Every day my body hurt, but no one would give me a break. I don't know how much time passed, but one day, when my body was a bit bigger, they gathered all of us, and made us touch a pretty stone. Some of my friends were gone, and different people came. But that didn't change our life. No, it made it worse. Their demands got worse with each passing day, and when we couldn't obey, they hit us hard. And when we couldn't do it, they didn't feed us either, so we had to work hard. My stomach hurt from being hungry. There were others like that next to me too. Some kids would help, but the next day, their faces would be red and swollen, and they couldn't move their mouths. I slowly began to lose interest in the other kids too. I just struggled to survive another day. What I saw was the thing in front of me, and I couldn't live if I didn't eliminate it. If I didn't follow orders, it was painful. And so, I just followed orders quietly, and swung my dagger. And then, I received a certain order. End someone. But I failed, and was locked in a dark room. In that room, I heard a voice constantly. That voice kept attacking me, even if I blocked my ears. It went on for days. And then I received another order. The mark was the same person as before. And this time, I did it. Last time my hand stopped when I saw a scared face, but this time, it didn't. I can't forget the feeling in my hand. Then I got a mask, and that's basically where it started. I did a lot since then. Observed people. Did that other thing to a lot of people. And then, one day, I met Master. It was my duty to observe him. I was told to bring him back if I confirmed that he could fight. But that ended in failure, and that was when Hikari was born. Hikari's hand is flesh-colored. But when Hikari's eyes are closed, they're stained red. Being alone is scary, but Master is here, and the girls too, so that makes me feel a little safe. I'm still Hikari. I get to be Hikari. But how would they see me if they knew the real me? Those eyes looking this way in the ruins, those were different than usual. I hold on to Master tightly. I feel like those worries are being set free. It's all right. If Master is here, I can be Hikari. So please Master, don't go anywhere. Don't leave me. I'll get a hold of myself tomorrow. Walking in Another World, Chapter 315, Pursuit. Part 1. Master, I'm hungry. I haven't heard that in a while, so I do a double take, and Hikari tilts her head with a confused expression. Are you alright? Chen? My stomach isn't. The response to the question I asked without thinking is very Hikari-like. She's even rubbing her stomach to show she's hungry. She's been eating less lately, to the point where everyone's been worried, including me. Of course, watching her eat with that satisfied look on her face is a healing sight in this world. Mia also looks relieved by this, and Sarah and the others all pat her head at the same time. It feels like Hikari acting like herself changes the mood a lot. We have breakfast, and leave the town right away, heading towards Nev like we planned. Not that we're planning to actually reach it. And just as we thought, when he crossed the gate, I can see on map one of the guards leaving his post. We couldn't confirm whether the man is in that town or not, but judging these movements, I'd say there's a pretty good chance that either him or someone related to him is here. I could see a reaction on map when we were in the inn too, like we were being watched. Marcus, a noble, and Sarah's last master, when she was a combat slave in the Empire, he treated slaves like they were things, and lost his temper when things didn't go as he wished. He had a pretty good social status, but after what happened with Sarah, he was apparently demoted. It really is as you said, Sarah. What now? Sora, can you see where patrols are? Hold on. Nothing shows up on map, so I infuse it with magic energy to increase its range. By doing that, I can see a group moving together this way. Their speed tells me they're clearly not on foot. It's a group of 10 people riding horses. That means there's a pretty good chance that this is a patrol. And there aren't any more reactions either. There's a good chance it's them. I agree. Even if they want to attack us, they probably want to avoid a confrontation with the patrol. If he still had political power, he would have probably captured us in town and made up a cover-up story. If he had the power to make that incident go away, he wouldn't have let us leave. Judging by the distance, I'd say the patrol should be back in town by night. Then the others will probably only leave after that. That means that no matter how fast they go, they aren't going to catch up to us today. Then we need to get as much distance as we can, and find a good place to face them. From what I can see on map, I don't think anyone will see it, but we still have to be cautious. The scenery around here is dreary, and without much place to hide. If someone were to use a skill to see far away, they could easily find us. We hurry along, but make sure to rest. Everyone's used to walking by now, but that doesn't mean their stamina is infinite. I want to walk a good distance, but my experience tells me it's better to not overdo it and to make sure to rest as we go along. We have lunch, and around the time when the meal is starting to make me feel sleepy, we pass by the patrol, and they call out to us. Patrols are hit or miss. Some are friendly, and others not so much. If we happen to find bad ones, they might start trouble and demand bribes, but thankfully, we haven't found any of those yet. After preparing dinner, and around the time when we are starting to eat, I see on map the patrol reaching the town. The patrol just got into town. I see. I wonder how it will turn out. We can only watch and see. There's nothing we can do. I say to a worried Chris. What if that person after Sarah is part of the patrol? Says Mia, and everyone except Hikari stops eating and looks at her. As everyone's eyes focus on her, Mia is so surprised that she almost drops the bread she's holding. We completely missed that. It's true. Someone he knows, or maybe Marcus himself, could be in that patrol, and if everyone on that patrol is under his influence, he could make up some crime. Since there are no witnesses, we need to do something. At least get further away from the town. I want to get off the main road if possible, but I'd like to walk for another 2 days at least before straying off the road. This area is hard to walk, and there's a river in the way, so we have to cross a bridge. I don't know if I can, but maybe I'll try making. I still have a good stock of wood. First, I use alchemy to create a trailer to use as a base. If it's too big it might not move, so I need to make it big enough for 4 people to be able to sleep. No, there's no deeper meaning to that. The remaining 2 can sit in the driver's seat, because we should still have someone keeping watch. I can create pseudo-rubber with the creation skill to use as tires. I can pick sap with alchemy, and then use monster materials and magic stones. I make spares too, but it's just a basic design, with a tire on each side. I attach them to the base, and done. Now I just need to cool the canine golem to pull it. Yes, the shaping skill is doing good work here too. How about we use this to move at night? This? Asks Rurika, sounding exasperated. Hikari on the other hand, gets closer, looking interested. It's kind of like a wagon. As for how comfortable it is, I have no idea. I emphasize the fact that with this, 2 people can keep watch while 4 sleep. But we do need people that can supply the golem with magic energy and look for enemies. As for the instructions to the golem, I can just tell it to move along the main road. And we need a roof too, both to protect from the elements, and to infuse it with an obstructive skill. It should protect us if someone uses a skill to see far away. In theory. Well then, let's decide the order. And so, Hikari and I go first while the others sleep. I can control the speed by the amount of magic energy infused, but I figured out that it shakes too much if it's too slow. After some trial and error, I managed to lead it to a speed where it doesn't shake too much. Also, it shakes less than a wagon. Rurika and Chris say this much is nothing, but Sarah and Mia take a while to fall asleep. And as this cart runs along, I enlarge map to see if there is any movement coming from the town. Walking in Another World, Chapter 316, Pursuit, Part 2, Marcus' Point of View. One of my followers, a gatekeeper, comes to me with information. At first I think I'm mishearing it, but several other people confirm it, so there's no doubt about it. I see. I didn't expect to find her here. I've been sent to a remote area to live a dreary life, but it ends today. I touch my cheek with my right hand, and feel the scar. It doesn't hurt now, but every day when I look at it, my anger is reignited. Maybe it would heal if I used an expensive potion, but my father stopped me from doing it. The reason is simple, so I don't forget my failure. I need information first, but that's easy around here. I don't have trouble figuring out where she's going either. The defensive city of Nov. I also get more information by spending some money in the inn. The records say that 3 adventurers, and I guess a merchant and his assistants, came into town. Among them is a special slave. At first I wonder why they're going to a town near the dark forest, but I guess they've been hired by the merchant to serve as guards. That detestable beast girl. She was freed from being a slave and is now going around as an adventurer. It doesn't sit well with me. After doing that to me, and I got some valuable information too. The other adventurers with her are her childhood friends. There's no way I won't use that. Hey, what about the patrol route? If it was before, I could have simply attacked them in town, but I can't cause a fuss here. I can't afford to displease my father even more. That means I also need to be careful about the patrol on the main road. It would be one thing if they were people under my influence, but there are ones in that group with some stupid sense of justice. I can't have them see it. Wait. If I stack the next patrol with my people. Unfortunately, I don't have a lowly occupation like a patrol, but I can use it. And if I use my personal soldiers to boost my fighting force, I can even attack them. It will be tricky if they're going by omnibus, but if I can get fast horses, I can still reach them. Well, I doubt any omnibus in this country is going to let a beast person on board anyway. Alright then, it's hunting time. It's time to pay back that grudge hundreds of times over. I'm not letting her go even if she cries for mercy. Damn it. What's going on? It's already been 2 days since I left Estes. I can almost see the bridge over the river. I talked to the patrol, so I know where they met that group. If I calculate backwards and think about our speed, it's clear that I should have caught them already, but I haven't. Hey, have you seen them yet? I yell, checking with someone who has a skill to see far away. I have confirmed that they are pretty far away. Can he catch up if we keep going? Considering the condition of the horses, I doubt it. But those people need to rest too, so, after thinking about it, I decide we should rest for today. If the horses can't move, I'll be on foot, and I need to think about the trip back too. Also, if we can see them, That means we're definitely getting closer. But the next morning, something unexpected happens. We use that same skill just to check, and they're nowhere to be seen. Does that mean they kept advancing during the night? We cross the bridge, keep moving, and there's still no sign of them. Hey, what happened? Useless people. I'm just getting more irritated. Someone says they're being aided by a skill, but I don't know about that. Today we're going to keep going a little later, and use the skill at night to watch them. But then night comes, and they say they're gone. What are you talking about? Judging by how flustered they are, it doesn't look like they're lying. I'm pretty mad about being woken up in the middle of the night, but calm myself. I want to go after them right away, but we can't get the horses to move now. We wake up earlier than usual, and resume our pursuit. I use an item that lets me see far away, and manage to see them. Only one problem. They're walking through a wasteland away from the main road. They're walking in the direction of the dark forest. Are they actually going there? I hesitate for a moment, but decide to continue going. That's just how much I can't control my anger. Half the reason why I made it this far is pure spite. But then it gets tougher. The footing is bad, and the ground is all slushy. The horses can't go faster, and since those people are on foot, we're not going to get to them like this. What? Magic. It looks like the ground is like this because they used water magic, meaning they know about us. And as if answering my question, we keep moving even though it's a little late, but we see them continuing to move forward without resting. Worst case scenario, we'll have to abandon the horses, but we haven't reached that point yet. At least I can tell the distance is shrinking. But I have to remember that if nothing else, that beast girl can fight. If we're not at our best, we'll be in danger for sure. But if we're in proper condition, there's no way they stand a chance against our force of 30 soldiers. And finally, they're within our reach. They really did enter the dark forest, but I'm sure we'll catch them if we keep going. Mr. Marcus, are you really going? Of course. Are you scared? N number. Of course not. Then onward. The enemy is right in front of us. We can't go in the dark forest on horseback, so we have to leave the horses here, fastened with ropes because we need them to go back. Now's hunting time, and time to clear away the humiliation from that day. Walking in Another World, Chapter 317, Pursuit, Part 3. They really are after us, and it's immediately clear they are too numerous to be a patrol. There are 30 of them. What should we do? I think it's dangerous to face them on the main road, so we should fight in the dark forest. The dark forest? So we're going to keep running until then? The cart pulled by the Gillam we've been using at night can advance through the main road without any issues, but a wasteland is a different story. Well, it can do it if we really push it, but I doubt we'll get any rest like that. The uneven surface is going to make the cart shake like crazy. Once we reach the wasteland, I use water magic along with Chris on the ground. We try using a lot of water, and manage to make a slushy mess that's hard to walk on. It's also going to dry pretty quickly, so it's not going to stay like that for long, but I think it'll be long enough to disrupt them. It works like a charm. We manage to keep some distance, and they don't catch up to us before we enter the dark forest. But our pursuer really has to be who we expected. There's no way people just patrolling would be this stubborn. Chris used the power of spirits to confirm their appearances when they managed to get close, and among them, there was a man who fit Marcus' features. Sarah says there's no doubt about it. So how are we going to beat them back? There are a lot of monster presences here. Rurika is right. Map shows me many reactions from monsters. If we fight our pursuers, there's a good chance the noise will attract those monsters. What do you want to do, Sarah? I don't have anything in particular in mind. Being chased is troublesome, but don't you hold any resentment? I have my own feelings too. But there's nothing that can be done about that at this point. Sarah says it's nothing when I ask, but when Chris asks, her face contorts, like she's bothered. Sarah is actually mad. Her pain probably comes from the people who fought alongside her, who were sent by Marcus to the dark forest and died there. Big sister Sarah, there's a good way, says Hikari, who has been quiet this whole time. Hikari's proposal is very simple, but it would strike a blow to them. Judging by how Marcus and his gang are moving, there should be at least one person among them with the ability to look for enemies. The way he's moving towards us without any hesitation proves it, and so, Hikari proposes that we use that to set a trap. We'll advance through a place with a lot of monsters, and set up a trap along the way. It won't attack them directly, but it will make a lot of noise. If it echoes through this quiet forest, It's bound to attract a lot of monsters. We'll have them get a taste of what they put Sarah and the others through. It really is a nice revenge. Hikari proposed this because she remembers what Sarah talked about before, and so, just as we planned, Marcus and his people fall for the trap. A loud noise echoes through the forest, and the monsters spread around all rush at the same time. Of course, since we're on the same path, some make their way towards us, but we'll deal with them. We specifically chose a place where there weren't many of them to begin with, because of the chance that Marcus and the others could bring the monsters to us in a mad dash to escape them. What we face are 5 blood snakes. They would be strong opponents for them to deal with if they went that way, but they didn't, so there's nothing that can be done. Hikari looks happy though. How strong are patrols and people of the Empire anyway? The levels I saw using appraisal were all over the place, so I have no idea. Low levels mean they just didn't take down a lot of monsters, but the man Sarah said is one of that other man's cronies was level 8. Honestly, the strong ones are strong. Power is everything in this country. But the weak ones are really weak. They leave everything to others and don't fight at all. It feels like Marcus would be like that too, but is he? How is their battle going? Asks Rurika, and I tell her what I can see on map, although all I can tell her are the reactions displayed on map, and which ones disappear. Presently, Marcus and the others have taken up a circle formation to make sure they're not surrounded, with about 7 people in the center. Are they reserves? People of high status? I can't tell that using map. They managed to expertly deal with the attack at first, as the fastest monsters charge in and get taken down first. Then the second wave comes, and 3 reactions disappear. 3 of the people in the middle jump in to plug the gaps, but they're gradually being overpowered by the monsters. An hour later, the monster reactions are all gone, but only 4 people are left, and one of them isn't moving. It looks like it's over. The Imperial soldiers that defeated the monsters aren't budging. Then again, they did fight for an hour straight. Sarah will decide what to do next. If she decides that's enough, we'll keep moving forward. If not, Sarah starts walking in the direction of the soldiers. If that's her decision, we'll follow it. It's her right. Walking in Another World, Chapter 318, Conclusion. Sarah's point of view. I'm honestly not sure what to do. With how strong I am now, it wouldn't be impossible to kill 30 of them if I really pushed myself. I'm just not brave enough to do it in front of Rurika and Chris. Apparently Sora had his own reservations about killing people, but I don't. I just feel this indescribable anxiety and resistance to doing it in front of those 2. And so, Hikari proposed a plan, but it just delays the inevitable. I had hopes that the monsters would overrun them and kill them all, but although part of me feels happy about that, they were attacked by a lot of monsters. I don't think that Marcus is alive, but I have to check. No matter who survived, they can't be allowed to live. In the meantime, Hikari tells me a good solution. I'm surprised when I hear it, and also angry at the kingdom that raised her in a way that she can think stuff like that like it's no big deal. Such a nice girl like her. I feel anger boiling to the surface, and take deep breaths. I need to calm down, or I might go berserk the moment I see them. Sora takes us to a place that reeks of blood. It's at times like these that I hate this sharp sense of smell of mine. The Imperial soldiers notice us and try to get up, but don't quite have the strength. When my eyes catch one in particular, I almost jump without thinking. He's also surprised to see me at first, but that surprise quickly turns into a glare. Those eyes filled with hatred actually cool my mind. He only thinks about himself. That much I know. Will you help us? A man wearing the uniform and equipment of a patrol whispers like he's moaning. He probably just tagged along, following orders without really knowing anything. No, he's putting on an act to seem weak, but he definitely knew what he was getting into. That eye color, those subtle mannerisms. It's what I've come to know about Imperial citizens. That's how Marcus is. He's not going to have people around him that don't do exactly what he says. Once I ignore that and get closer, he attacks me just as I expected. I dodge that attack, and swing a dagger. The man suffers a fresh wound, and loses his momentum as he falls to the ground. It shouldn't hurt that much. I wasn't going for a fatal attack. I keep quiet and get closer, and cut at the 4 people here, including Marcus. Why, you know you're going to pay for this, you beast. Yes. If I make it back alive, you're dead. I thought they were going to hurl abuse, but they still think they're going to be saved. The nerve. I can't believe they're saying that. when there's no way they're going to survive. You're not getting out of this alive, or maybe you will, if you're lucky. Marcus glares at me. But then he realizes something, and his expression changes. Having trouble moving? This dagger that cut you has a paralyzing effect, and it lasts for 3 days, at least according to Hikari. And I'm sure it varies depending on the individual. I'm not going to kill you, but what about the monsters? The paralysis is doing its thing, and they're not talking back anymore. I hear some screams that don't quite leave their throats though. They're going to have to spend 3 days in the dark forest, immobile. That's fear. It's the same fear we felt time and time again. We would huddle together and feel relief when we got to see another sunrise. That's how I spent my days with people who passed on before me. I saw a lot of friends draw their last breaths. I still remember how, no matter how much pain they were in, at the last moment, everyone had peaceful expressions on their faces. Why? I know it would have been the same for me if I died then. They were in pain, but fought to the very end, not giving up. No. They were probably just stubbornly hanging on so they wouldn't lose to those people. Still, I think death was the only way to get some peace in that harsh environment. That's why I think they all thought the same thing. I'm finally free. I look at Marcus, and it looks like he's pleading. The other 3 are doing the same. A couple have pathetic looks on their faces. The paralysis makes it so they can't move, but they can move their faces. Not that it matters. They can breathe well enough to not die. So it's not like they're completely paralyzed. Are you happy with that? Yes, it's fine. They're as good as dead. I know the dark forest. We're still in the outskirts, but plenty of monsters appear one after the other here. That's the kind of place this is. The thick smell of blood hanging in the air is bound to attract monsters, and that's when Marcus will end. But I think it's fitting that before he dies, he gets to experience the same fear we felt. Walking in Another World, Chapter 319. Dark Forest, Part 1. Welcome back, Master, says Hikari while hugging me. It hasn't been that long since I left, but I guess she was worried about me walking in the dark forest by myself. We moved on after checking that Marcus and the others couldn't move. Along the way we realized that they left their horses at the edge of the dark forest, so I moved alone to go free them. I don't know what the horses will do, but they will run out of steam eventually if they stay tied together. The reason why I let them go was less to save them, and more to avoid someone finding them here and coming into the dark forest. Well then, we should actually start exploring the dark forest. I hear a stomach growling, as if it's saying number. I can't help but immediately turn to Hikari, but so does Mia. But Hikari shakes her head. Haha, I guess now that I'm not nervous anymore. My stomach's howling, says Sarah, looking embarrassed. It's probably because she's feeling relieved after being a little on edge for days. Let's eat then. There are no monster presences, so I think we can take our time having lunch. It's not really a celebration, but I make today's lunch a little more special. Instead of taking something already made from the item box, I make something from scratch, so we also have time to drain the blood from the blood snakes we hunted earlier and take them apart. That said, Chris and Mia help too, so it doesn't take that long to cook. Once we're done eating, I take the item we got from the Dragon King out of the item box. It's a pendant, and once it's out in the open, it begins to glow faintly. It didn't react like this when we got it from the Dragon King. Eventually the light stretches from the pendant, almost like it's guiding us. Should we follow it? I think so. Let's just trust it for now, says Chris, as she looks at the light with suspicion. We were told that even without this, if we just kept going deeper, we would probably find it, but let's follow it. As we walk, map gets updated, so I don't think we'll get lost. Also, despite this being the dark forest, walking here isn't all that different from walking in any other forest. It feels dim because of all the big trees blocking the sunlight, but there were trees like these in the dungeon too. I think that's just you, Sora. Yes, just Master, say the 2 girls that have the skills to search for things. They also say that as we walk deeper, it gets harder to feel monsters' presences. They're at 80% of what they could do before. If they focus, they can bring it back to 100. But it'll wear their nerves. Well, for now at least, the area around us is safe, so don't strain yourselves too much. And apparently there aren't that many monsters where the light is leading us. It feels like it's purposefully avoiding them. But we won't get to test their strength without monsters. As Roroku says, the Gillums haven't actually fought monsters yet. I took them out when we fought in the ruins, but they didn't fight. And aside from that first encounter when we entered the dark forest, we haven't come across any monsters. And so, while I think they've been getting stronger through mock battles against us, I don't actually know how much. I think they could take down an orc. Really? I think they could handle a tiger off. Should I trust Sarah and Rurika's assessments? That would mean they're actually pretty strong. Well, it'd make us feel more safe if they got better at defense, rather than taking down monsters. Rurika is right. I made them to serve as guards to keep watch or use shields, so I want their defensive abilities to go up so they don't get torn to pieces during every mock battle, right? They can repair themselves as long as they have magic energy, so if they do get torn apart, they can recover. But that also means they function for a shorter amount of time. It's fine if there's someone near them that can supply them with magic energy, but if not, they're going to be at a disadvantage if fights drag on for long. There's something. 2 days later, we keep following the light until we find a big stone. It looks like that stone is sucking in the light from the pendant. At first it feels natural, like the light is just melting into nature, but the closer we get, the less natural it feels. By using magic energy detection, I can feel strong magic energy from the stone itself. I touch it, and the light from the pendant gets brighter, and the space next to the stone is distorted. There's a tree there, but when I reach out to it, my hand goes through it. I don't know if the pendant caused this, but Sarah and Rurika go first to check what's on the other side, and after they find no trouble, Hikari, Mia, and Chris follow, and I go last. The moment I go in, map disappears. I try to call it again, but a message saying failed appears in front of me. This has never happened before. What's wrong? Asks Chris, and I tell her what happened. I look around and see the forest, so I'm pretty sure we're still in the dark forest, and then, I pick up a reaction from presence detection and magic energy detection. It's still far, but it's approaching at an incredible speed. I guess Hikari and Rurika feel it too, because they quickly hold their weapons ready. The others are also on guard when they see them, and I put the golems in front of Chris and Mia to cover them. And what appears in front of us are 2 demons.